Well, hello and welcome to the City of Eureka City Council meeting on December 5th. We're glad you're all here. Welcome. And with that, we're going to start with the land acknowledgement. The land that Eureka rests on is known in the Wiyot language as Jirojiji. Past actions by local, state, and federal governments remove the Wiyot and other indigenous peoples from the land and threaten to destroy their cultural practices. The City of Eureka acknowledges the Wiyot community, their elders both past and present, as well as future generations. This acknowledgement demonstrates the city's commitment to dismantle the ongoing legacies of settler colonialism. And if we could get a roll call, please.
Councilmember Castellano?
Here.
Councilmember Moulton?
Here.
Councilmember Fernandez?
Here.
Councilmember Bauer?
Here.
Councilmember Contreras de Loche?
Here.
Mayor Burgell?
Here. And will all who care to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And is there a report out of closed session?
Good evening, Mayor. No, there's no report out of closed session tonight.
Thank you. Okay, under my mayor's announcements today, I'm really excited to bring up Alice Burney's first grade class. If you guys want to come forward.
Mayor, just a point of order about the H1 item.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me just give you this heads up. So as we announced yesterday, thank you for that. Item number H1, the ceasefire resolution, was pulled from the agenda and will not be discussed or acted upon. Now, if we could have Alice Burney come up. So these lovely children have provided the artwork in the hallway, so be sure that you all take a look. And would any of you like to share?
Good evening, Council. It's very good to see you this evening. I'm Kristen Sabillo. I'm principal, the proud principal of Alice Burney Elementary School. And tonight I brought with me Kathy Warren, who teaches one of our first grade classes at Alice Burney, and her students have done the artwork for the hallway. And so they're here tonight to introduce themselves to you. And Kathy, is there anything you would like to say to the Council? Okay. We just thank you for letting us have the opportunity to come and share who we are and the little things we do at our school. So, do you want to come up and tell them your name? We're going to give it a try. Yeah. So you can tell them what your name is.
You can pull that down.
And what grade you're in.
My name is Lindsay.
And Lindsay, what's something you like at Alice Burney? What do you like to do at Alice Burney? What's one thing? What about the playground? What do you like on the playground? Okay, we're a little shy.
Welcome. We're glad you're here, hon.
Okay, Eduardo, you want to give and introduce? How about you, Ava? Tavon? Come on. How about this?
Well, actually,
How about
We gotta
this?
hear from
Come and
someone.
Stand with me. Come and stand with me. We'll stand together like this, okay? And we'll say good evening. Good evening, Council. Tonight I have Lindsay, yes, and Eduardo, yes, and Ava, and Tavon, yes. And we are here tonight, and we are sharing our artwork with you.
well, we appreciate you, and we have a little something for you. Let's give you a little hand clap first.
You realize this opportunity is pretty incredible for these young people to have. I believe when they're seniors, they might be able to speak to you one day.
They can join the youth council when they get a little bit older.
That's absolutely correct, Katie.
And then we also pins, because you're official now, officially part of this whole gang and family.
This is your city. I'm
This is
sharing
your
your
city.
artwork with everyone to see.
So, high fives, you guys. Nice job, nice job, nice job. And then where's your brother? Oh, that's right. Oh, good. Okay. Cool. Well, thank you guys so much for being here.
Thanks so much for having us.
I'm all about the angles. Right?
There we go.
I feel so tall.
She's like,
That's why I like
More
it
of
too,
this,
Kim.
please.
nice. If you want to get in the middle, both of you.
One more.
Okay, one more. Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Very good to see all of you. Nice to see you.
So adorable. I know when I was a little kid here in Eureka, Sam Sacco was the mayor, and I got to come to his office quite regularly with my mom, and what a treat. So with that, we will bring up Caitlin, our program coordinator Merrill, and homeless services coordinator Wood for a presentation on CAPE, their holiday program.
Right. It's kind of a hard act to follow, guys.
I know.
Your artwork's
Bring some
amazing.
hand-drawn
Great
art.
job. Hi, thank you so much for having us tonight. My name is Caitlin. This is Sierra. I'm the program coordinator, and Sierra's the homeless services coordinator for the City of Eureka's Cape and Uplift programs. There we go. So the Community Access Project for Eureka, also known as CAPE, is a program that falls within the Economic Development Department of the City of Eureka. And CAPE's mission is to provide access to quality of life programming and opportunities for all members of our community, regardless of their living situation or income.
Here's a visual overview of the components of CAPE. CAPE offers quality of life programming for youth and adults, employment programs, as well as our Uplift Eureka program, which specifically supports community members experiencing homelessness.
So CAPE has the great opportunity to provide a variety of holiday programs for community members that are low income or underprivileged. And through partnering with local agencies and shelters, we're able to lighten the burden or the stress that sometimes the holidays bring with them, and also bring a little bit of cheer and joy to these families' lives. So one of the programs that we offer is the Halloween costume drive. This program elicits the help of local community members and asks for donations of new costumes for children that might otherwise not be able to dress up for Halloween. And the children that participate in this program are referred by local partnering agencies, by local shelters, and also by County of Humboldt programs. We have a pretty big inventory of costumes that we work with to pair children's requests with the costumes in our inventory. And if we don't have something that they've requested, we make sure that they get what they want. We go ahead and advertise on our website specific costume request needs, and the community really shows up and makes this holiday special for these kids. So this year, we're really proud to say that we were able to provide 54 children with Halloween costumes. Yeah. We also have the great privilege of partnering with the Betty Quanchin Homeless Foundation. So we partner with Betty all throughout the year on a variety of programs and efforts. During the holiday season, we work with Betty to provide food baskets for participants that are in our Uplift Rapid Rehousing program. We do this 3 times a year, so for Easter, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. And we, thanks to the incredible efforts of Betty and her staff, we are projecting to be able to provide 60 food baskets this year to folks that would otherwise not have these meals.
In the wintertime, CAPE offers several different holiday events for youth. The holidays can be a particularly stressful time of the year just due to the financial burden of holiday celebrations, so these programs help to ease some of that stress. Specifically, our winter holiday gift program benefits children residing in local shelters and low-income housing in Eureka and Arcata. CAPE receives gift requests for each of the children, including their interests, ages, things that they both need and want. And City of Eureka staff are invited to adopt participating children and donate those gift requests. Over the past couple years, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we weren't able to hold an in-person event, but instead we have Santa and his elf directly deliver the gifts to the children. So last year, 35 children were served to the program, and we expect to serve the same amount this year. This year, we were really fortunate to receive a generous grant award from PG&E's Better Together Giving program. So we're able to put on an in-person winter holiday celebration coming up pretty soon. Families will be invited to enjoy pizza and pie, holiday short films and crafts, photos with Santa and his elf, and a gift opening at the event. So really, thank you so much to PG&E for the generous grant award and making this possible. Our other main winter event is the Shop with the Cop program, put on in partnership with the Eureka Police Department. This event serves children that would benefit from positive interactions with law enforcement and first responders. Children are first dropped off at the Warfinger building, where they're buddied up with volunteers from organizations including the Eureka Police Department, Humboldt Bay Fire, and the Humboldt County Sheriff's Office. They enjoy breakfast, and then they take a fun ride in emergency vehicles with the sirens on over to Target, and they get $100 for a shopping spree with their buddy. So each child then returns back to the Warfinger. They have some time to enjoy their toys with their buddy and foster a positive connection with them. Last year, 54 children were served from the program, and this year we expect to serve 74 children.
Yeah, so CAPE, we wouldn't be able to do any of this without the support of the community. And there's a lot of ways to contribute to our programs and help us keep doing what we're doing. So a couple of ways are just to keep in mind that each October we welcome donations of brand new Halloween costumes for children in need. Also during the winter months, we welcome donations of items such as jackets, shoes, rain boots, toys, games, stuffed animals, things like that for the children in our winter holiday gift program. And then we also accept in-kind donations, and this money is utilized to purchase things like this to make sure that these kids have a good holiday season. So if you're interested in giving back to the community and supporting our programs and contributing, please feel free to reach out to us to learn more or to make a contribution. Sierra's number is right there. She's the person to talk to. So that concludes our presentation this evening. Thank you so much for taking the time to hear about our programs, and thank you to all the community members that have supported us along the way and helped us do what we're doing. Thank you to City Council so much for your continued support of our programs. It's a true honor to do what we're doing. And because of your support and the community's support, we're able to continue doing that. And also to like to say thank you to this lady right here, because without Sierra, these programs wouldn't be coordinated. And because of your talent, these programs are happening, and we're just really excited to be a part of this. And I feel like together we are making a true difference in our community. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being here and your incredible work. Okay, so my mayor's reports, I've been a bit busy this last couple weeks. I was able to attend parties for the Historical Society as well as the Clark Museum. Both were wonderful. The museum, they have a quilt display right now that is fabulous. It has the quilt from the Six Rivers tree that was at, what is that place? The White House? Yeah. So that's pretty neat. And then the Historical Society, they had a lot of great pictures. They'll be putting up the Boone fence on E Street, which is really exciting. I did a couple of ribbon cuttings. Schluter's Fine Art Gallery on 3rd Street. Beautiful space. If you get the opportunity, I encourage you to stop by. And then almost directly across the street is Good Relations, and they're in their new location, and it is absolutely beautiful. And they have something for everybody, naughty or nice, I would say. So I'd encourage everybody to take the pledge and shop local if you can this year. For Thanksgiving, we were able to go to St. Vincent de Paul and serve food, which is one of my favorite things of the whole year, and get to see a lot of people that we don't normally get to see. Ran the turkey trot. Councilmember Bauer was gonna be there, but he flaked. And then, did I say that out? I guess I did. I also, and there's two more things I want to talk about. One of them is that I also went on a ride along with EPD, with the Eureka Police Department, and I would challenge each council member to go for a ride with, even if it's only a couple of hours, to go for a ride with EPD, because when you're out with them, you really get to see the depth and the weight of the work that they do. And I'll tell you, our guys are incredible. The ones that I went out with Officer Huffman and Officer Baird, and one was Ranger and one was Patrol, and I learned a lot while I was out there, an awful lot, but we won't go into that. And then lastly, I wanted to let you know that we did have our 4th town hall, community health town hall on substance use disorder. It's available on our website as well as Facebook Live. It was an incredible, respectful dialogue about something that's very difficult. We plan to continue having town halls next year as well, and we would encourage your input on those. We'd like to know what you'd like to talk about as well. So let us know. And with that, that's all I have for now. We will open up for public comment. Before anybody stands up, this is the time for members of the public who wish to be heard on matters that do not appear on the agenda. City Council policy is to limit each speaker to 3 minutes. Such time allotment or portion thereof shall not be transferred to other speakers. The public will be allowed to speak concurrently with the calling of an agenda item following the staff presentation of that item. And pursuant to the Brown Act, the City Council may not take action on an item that does not appear on the agenda. The time allotment for public comment on non-agenda items, a maximum of 30 minutes, shall be allotted to receiving public comments at the initial public comment period. If necessary, an additional period shall be allotted to public comments after the city manager reports, but only if the first 30-minute public comment period was not sufficient to allow those who wish to speak to do so. And then lastly, I just want to remind people that we have this 30 minutes. Please don't clap, yell, behave disrespectfully. If that begins to happen, we'll take a recess and we'll just have to shut it down for a while. So please be respectful of everybody in the room. Everybody has a voice. Everybody has something important to say. Let's listen. Come on up. Welcome.
We present the Resolution for the Liberation of Palestine, written by Humboldt for Palestine. To the Eureka City Council, this is the resolution you are too cowardly to entertain in this chamber, as you have yet to reckon with your own complicity and continuous reiteration of settler colonialism and its foundations. In your cowardice, you support the genocide of the Palestinian people. I speak now to the community that is the electorate, the community of Eureka, the community of Humboldt. Your elected officials will not take action. You can support this resolution. Your voice is what gives this government power. Use your voice and power to uplift and support Palestinian liberation. You can sign the following resolution directly on our link tree, Humboldt for Palestine on Instagram. Ooh. Okay. Resolution by the City of Eureka calling for the liberation of Palestine. Whereas the City of Eureka condemns the ethnic cleansing, including the genocide of Palestinian people in Gaza and the West Bank and throughout historic Palestine at the hands of the Israeli settler state. And whereas ethnic cleansing refers to the creation of an ethnically homogeneous geographic area through the elimination of unwanted ethnic groups by deportation, forcible displacement, or genocide. And whereas the settler state of Israel is now engaged in an ethnic cleansing campaign, which includes genocide by explicitly requiring 2 million Palestinians to leave Gaza immediately through specific routes of displacement while being bombed and shot at throughout Gaza, including along the routes of displacement by the Israeli army. And whereas the settler state of Israel has committed multitudinous war crimes against the Palestinian people, including collective punishment according to international law. And whereas collective punishment is considered a war crime under international law and refers to a formation of sanction imposed on persons or a group of persons in response to a crime committed by one of them or a member of the group, and that the settler state of Israel commits collective punishment in their own frame of criminalization of resistance to the imposed settler state. And whereas in violation of the Fourth Geneva Convention of 1949, which states in Article 3.1, persons taking no active part in the hostilities, including members of armed forces who have laid down their arms and have placed or is the combat by sickness, wounds, detention, and or any other cause, shall in circumstances be treated humanely, without any adverse distinction founded on race, color, religion, or faith, sex, birth, or wealth, or any similar criteria, end quote. The state of Israel has collectively displaced and punished the people of Palestine and has destroyed universities, churches, hospitals, schools, and refugee camps, and non-governmental organization centers. And I pass it to my colleague.
I thought that this was on the agenda and couldn't be discussed.
This is public comment, and people have 3 minutes. Excuse me, there are people in line. You'll need to get in line. Thank you. Secondly, the reason that was addressed is because public comment is for 3 minutes. You can share about whatever you like as long as it's not on the agenda. Not on the agenda, which this is not on the agenda. We had it pulled. Okay, you're fine. Thank you. Mr. Bonino, welcome.
Bonino, 1426 M Street. Hello, I would like to ask the council to hold a special session to vote on putting the Housing for All initiative, otherwise known as the Building on the Parking Lots plan, on the ballot for March. I think the citizens of Eureka deserve a chance to vote on this sooner rather than later. And I think the little background for those of you who were not on the council or on the planning commission when this issue had a hearing. I just want to let you know that the planning commission, when we approved the Building on the Parking Lots plan, only approved this plan with the agreement and understanding that these new buildings would be built on stilts above the parking lots in order to preserve the parking spaces underneath on the ground level. Never was it mentioned that off-site parking 200 or 300 or more feet away from these buildings would be utilized as a substitute for parking on the on-site parking. Had the city staff suggested during those meetings of the Eureka Planning Commission that removing all of the existing parking places would be considered an option, the Eureka Planning Commission would not have approved of the Building on the Parking Lots plan. Any statements by current or previous council members to the contrary regarding the Eureka Planning Commission's intentions at that hearing when this plan was discussed are a clear attempt to manufacture some form of previous official support for this plan to remove so much of the parking in the downtown business corridor. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here. Come on up. No, we were actually going over here. But you know what? We'll have you go next. If friends, if you want to split the line, you totally can. Might be easier that way.
I'm just going by past practices. First, I want to start off by saying, I mean, this will make a lot of people mad, but I think it's reprehensible to use children to further adults'
So
political
excuse me,
ambitions.
Mr. Parr, one moment. So friends, if you'd like to go to the other side and split the line, you're welcome to do so. Mr. Parr was in the line over here. End of discussion. We're going to move forward now. Please be respectful. Thank you.
Okay. Anyway, so it's been a while since I've been down here, but I missed you all so much, and I figured you missed me, so I let my wife dress me. I washed my butt and I brushed my teeth, and I sure you different utensils. Put a new shirt on, and I even got a haircut for you. So here I am, and I remember a couple months ago, when I was down here, I asked for a copy of the survey that Mr. Slatterly told me was the impetus for the replacement of all the parking lots in Old Town and downtown with housing. He said at the time that there was a survey done about 5 years ago now that gave him a mandate that the citizenry of Eureka said that they wanted, overwhelmingly said that they wanted more housing and less parking. So I came down here and I requested a copy of that survey. So far I've been sent a couple of things. None of them are even close to what I requested. So my question is, does the survey exist? Is the city staff so incompetent that they cannot find the survey which led to this whole project? Or is Mr. Slatterly a bald-faced liar? I think that the former is probably unlikely, and I'm going to request once again, in public, a copy of the study that Mr. Slatterly said gave him the mandate to replace all of the downtown and Old Town parking lots with housing. It would seem to be a very simple request, and yet I cannot seem to be satisfied. So, I know the city staff is competent, and I'd hate to think that one of our city leaders is a bald-faced liar, but at this point, I can't help but think anything else. So, would you like to send me the copy of the study that you referenced, Mr. Slatterly?
Please address the council, Mr. Parr.
Okay, so would the council like to encourage the city manager to send me a copy of the survey that he referenced when he said that that's what gave him the mandate to do this, to complete this project? It's a very simple request, I would think. It would seem, how can you lose the survey that directed your entire project? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Come on up.
Okay. Yes, I realize the proposal H1 has been withdrawn. I wrote a piece opposing it, and I'm going to share that now at this opportunity. Okay. So, why is Israel invading the Gaza Strip? And what you call a pacifist Jew, you call him dead, very dead. Thus, there must not be a lasting ceasefire until the hostages have been released and Hamas has been dealt with appropriately. So to understand the current situation, one must consider some history, starting with that dear warlord Muhammad, who by the 620s, capitalizing on the concoction of a distorted and corrupted version of Judaism, was leading a marauding band of pillaging brigands to take over the Arabian Peninsula. In time, his followers had conquered lands and converted populations from Tunisia through Indonesia. World War I led to the fall of 5 empires, including that of the Ottoman Turks, whose lands included what was to become Palestine. Having acquired these territories, the British, in 1948, gave the lion's share, about 80% of them, to their Arab occupants. These Arab lands became a Palestinian state, Jordan. A small portion, about 20%, was set aside for the Jews for what was to become Israel. This was the two-state solution. Now, the Arab Muslims were very unhappy with the state of affairs, so once the British had left, they attempted to destroy Israel. However, Israel successfully defended itself over the next 25 years and came into possession of more territories, including those of the Sinai Peninsula, the Gaza Strip, and the West Bank. Most of these were returned, particularly the Sinai to Egypt and Gaza to the Palestinians. Now, the Egyptians have been at peace with Israel for quite a few years, but Hamas has been seeking to exterminate the Jews and eliminate their state. As part of this effort, on October 7th, 2023, Hamas engaged in the provocative and brutal attack on and massacre of Israeli civilians at the music festival and in their own homes. Israel was compelled by duty and had the desire to defend itself and its people, which required the elimination of Hamas. Hamas also uses their own people as human shields by placing their bases in the vicinity of hospitals, schools, and other civilian facilities. Thus, when Israel eliminates these bases of operations, excessive collateral damage occurs. Now, certain cultural Marxists have decided to make common cause with the Palestinians, including Hamas, as they see the Israelis as being the oppressors and the Palestinians as being the oppressed. However, the application of this dogma grossly oversimplifies the complicated and long-standing conflict there. Note that in Article 7 of the Charter of Hamas, I will continue at a later date.
Actually, you have 28 seconds.
I have 28 seconds. The Charter of Hamas, one finds the following concluding statement. The day of judgment will not come until Muslims fight the Jews, when the Jew will hide behind stones and trees. The stones and trees will say, O Muslim, O servant of God, there is a Jew behind me, come and kill him. The document continues, saying, our struggle against the Jews is very great and very serious, and demands the destruction of Israel and the replacement of both Israel and the Palestinian territories with an Islamic state. Thus, Israel is locked in an existential
Thank
struggle.
you.
I will finish it later.
Thank you. Kenny, you want to come on up? And then you'll be next. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Kenny Carswell. I'm here tonight speaking on behalf of Security National. I find it extremely disappointing that our City Council decided to not include an agenda item this evening to discuss putting the Housing for All and Downtown Vitality initiative on the March ballot. Multiple citizens, including many from our local business community, have reached out to you. When asked to include this on tonight's agenda, false statements such as there needing to be more signatures collected for this initiative and inaccurate numbers for the cost to place this initiative on the March ballot are your responses. These excuses simply are not true. I ask that you call for a special City Council meeting by Thursday, December 7th to hear a presentation by the Housing for All and Downtown Vitality initiative proponents, and for the council to vote on whether to place it on a special election ballot for March 5th. You are elected officials. You're delaying a democratic process to further your own personal agendas while not giving your constituents a platform to speak their thoughts on this topic. When your names are on the ballot, citizens will remember this moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Kenny. Come on up. Welcome.
Hello. My name is Haley Bruno, and this is my statement. I would like to direct it today to you, Kim, who took the ceasefire resolution off the table for today's meeting, saying, quote, the ceasefire resolution proposed for adoption at tomorrow's meeting would not have ended the violence in Gaza and Israel, but it would perpetuate more divisiveness and hatred in our community, adding, quote, may we practice peace and respectful dialogue in all of our interactions each and every day, unquote. I stand here today with my community to tell you that you do not know what peace looks like. Your idea of peace is whitewashed and colonized. Peace to you looks like turning away from a principled position and standing for nothing, which only does and always has benefited the oppressive machine of settler colonialism and white supremacy. White women are addicted to being loved by everyone, to contorting their words and actions to offend the least amount of people. Tell me which historical leaders who actually changed the tide of history were universally loved and had no enemies. Don't you understand that the oppressors who are supporting waging death and genocide on children and families in Palestine will feel oppressed when you take their freedom to demolish human dignity away from them? Don't you understand that you will be hated by the murderous man whose gun you have dismantled in favor of protecting life? The goal of real leadership, Kim, is not to have no enemies. The goal is to have the moral courage and discernment to choose who you are willing to be hated by. You are acting like a slave master's wife, saying that there is nothing that can be done whilst you collude with the abusive and evil American empire that is crushing human innocence with the evil fist of the military-industrial complex. You are desperately trying to signal to your constituency that rage is so unbecoming of us, that we need to be pretty and quiet, and that all we can do is pity what is happening and pray that someone comes to save us. Shame on you. You are feigning powerlessness. I have learned that pity is not solidarity. Despair is not solidarity. Solidarity is the type of presence that costs you something. Whether you choose to stand in solidarity on the right side of history is up to you, though truth be told, I have little faith that you will. Based on what you have shown, for that reason, I've moved my faith in your righteousness to faith in my own. I am young. I can replace you or someone wiser than I can. I can outlive your weak ideas and replace them with true sentiments of the global majority. Our passion, courage, endurance, and commitment to liberation is stronger than yours, is stronger than the enemy's. Palestine will be free.
Thank you for being here.
To the chair.
Excuse me. Yes.
I just want to let members of the public know that that decision was not made by Mayor Burgell alone. And so please direct comments to all of council, not just one person. I will not sit here and allow one person to be held responsible for that decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Come on up.
Thank you so much. My name is Sangeeta. I'm a community member and a student at Cal Poly Humboldt and a member of Humboldt for Palestine. And thank you. I would just like to second the comment that came before me and hold all of you to your collective responsibility that we all have to the people of Gaza to end this genocide. I will continue chain reading the resolution that my colleague began. Whereas, we mourn all of the lives lost from October 7th to the present, where the genocide being committed by the settler state of Israel has included the indiscriminate killing of over 11,000 people, over 4,500 of them children, and the displacement of over 1 million Palestinian residents of Gaza, while also holding grief to those lost throughout the decades of genocide, displacement, occupation, oppression, and blockade endured in Gaza and the West Bank by Palestinian people. And whereas, the quantity of martyred, injured, and displaced Palestinians in the most recent escalation of genocidal violence committed by the settler state of Israel will increase without an immediate ceasefire, while underscoring that Palestinian lives must not be reduced to numbers. And whereas the settler state of Israel has violated international law, having detained more than 1,450 Palestinian residents of the West Bank since October 7th, while 4,500 workers from Gaza are unaccounted for and believed to have been detained by Israeli forces. The violation of international law includes acts of vengeance, as well as disallowing food, water, and visitations to Palestinians that have been illegally detained. And whereas Israel has occupied Palestine and created internal refugees since 1948 Nakba, which was not a closed historical event, but continuous violence aimed at the destruction of Palestine and Palestinians, and has forced Palestinians to live under an apartheid state parallel to Jim Crow in the United States and the South African apartheid. And whereas a concentration camp is defined as a place where large numbers of people, especially political prisoners or members of persecuted minorities, are deliberately imprisoned in a relatively small area with inadequate facilities, sometimes to provide forced labor or to await mass execution. And whereas the Gaza Strip, one of the most densely populated places on Earth, with more than 2 million people confined to 140 square miles, is a concentration camp and has been repeatedly referred to by human rights groups as the world's largest open-air prison, even prior to this particular ethnic cleansing campaign. And whereas Gaza is known as the world's largest open-air prison due to ongoing unbearable living conditions imposed by the State of Israel, including a full air, land, and sea blockade, enclosure of its oil borders by concrete walls and barbed wire fences, and the strict prohibition of Palestinians from leaving and entering the territory freely. And
thank you for being here. Mr. Callison. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm Tim Callison, speaking on behalf of Security National Properties regarding the ballot initiatives that facing you. City Council, I'm in immense resistance you have exhibited to give due process to all subject matters that come before you is a blatant dereliction of your elected positions. Autumn Luna, your attorney, has acknowledged that she has made a mistake in telling the public on November 7th City Council meeting that the ballot initiative could not be put on the March ballot. This has never been publicly corrected. You, the council, are happy to continue and let this public think that, that the public think that they cannot vote on this initiative until November. This is a deceitful and dishonest and exhibited by each and every one of you. I'm going to leave you with this. A ship of fools, a ship that is dysfunctional, that with a dysfunctional crew, the problems of governance prevailing and political system not based on expert knowledge.
Thanks for being here, Tim. Hi there, welcome.
Hi, I'm going to pick up where my comrade left off.
Whereas the 2 million Palestinians in Gaza are without access to clean water, food, medical care, electricity, and humanitarian aid, according to the United Nations. And as of November 10th, at least 12 people have died of dehydration and starvation since October 7th. And whereas the colonial carceral logics and justifications, including the positioning of indigeneity as criminal from which the colonial entity must protect itself, this is done through stripping the indigenous of their rights and denying them control of their own destiny, have been systematically applied to the project of the Israeli settler state and the occupation of Palestine, including the siege on Gaza. And whereas these colonial carceral logics are rejected through an abolitionist framework, Palestinian people are a sovereign indigenous people, and whereas the state of Israel would be hindered in maintaining an apartheid regime with the removal of the military and fiscal aid provided by the United States through taxpayer funds annually, which continues to deprive Americans of money for their own urgent needs. And whereas the international community, including the majority of United States residents, demand a ceasefire immediately. Demonstrations across the globe will continue until the apartheid colonial state of Israel stops bombing, massacring, enacting military action against and forcibly displacing Palestinians. Therefore, be it resolved that the City Council in the City of Eureka calls on the U.S. government to demand an immediate and permanent ceasefire by the settler state of Israel and its accomplices, including the United States of America, and allow the safe passage of substantial humanitarian aid to Gaza, to hold Israel accountable for their indiscriminate violence against Israeli and Palestinian hostages, including the illegal detention of 1,450 Palestinian residents and disappearance of Palestinian residents of the West Bank by the Israeli occupation forces, to immediately and permanently cease fiscal and militaristic aid, including arms, to Israel, including the annual $3.4 billion in U.S. taxpayer funds sent by the United States to Israel, and the $14.3 billion aid package proposed by President Biden, and to support the liberation of Palestine, including an end to the Israeli apartheid state and the occupation of Palestinian lands, and the return of ancestral Palestinian lands to their distinct sovereign communities and their descendants contiguous with the lands held prior to the Nakba. The unsettling of the apartheid state will support the human rights of all people, particularly the most oppressed and marginalized people in the region, the Palestinian people. Cowards, how dare you? How dare you dodge our organization, our respectful communication, transparent? You should be ashamed of yourself. You all are cowering in the shadow of fascism. It's here. Look at me. It is here.
Thank you for being here. Come on up.
Good evening,
Welcome.
City Council members, City staff, and Mayor Burgle. My name is Maggie Hinchliff. I'm requesting that you hold a special council meeting and vote to place the Housing for All and Downtown Vitality Initiative on the March election ballot. At the November 7th City Council meeting, your attorney publicly stated that it could not be put on the March ballot. She has since corrected this error in an email to you, but you have so far refused to take a new vote using the correct information. You have not even notified the public of this error. Instead, you are spreading new lies about why we can't vote on this in the March, such as it will cost too much or that the proponents didn't get enough signatures. You have all been sent numerous emails rebutting these claims using cited sources such as information provided by the Humboldt County Registrar of Voters and excerpts from the election code. Either you are purposefully not reading this information, which is a serious dereliction of duty, or you are choosing to continue to knowingly spread false information. I'm also asking that you let the proponents of the initiative present to you as you let so many other members of the public give presentations at City Council meetings. You have so far ignored these requests. To date, you are only allowing one side of the story to be told. For instance, the impact report that you commissioned using taxpayer money presented a biased and in some cases false or misleading analysis of the initiative and the laws governing affordable housing in California. It was clear by your questions in the City Council meeting on November 7th that several of you didn't even read the report, and you certainly didn't read the proponent's report that gave further information and called many of the report's findings into serious question. You are woefully violating the trust of your constituents by not educating yourself on the issue and severely neglecting your duty as an elected official by not being truthful with the public. Many of you have clearly stated your opposition to the initiative. You are welcome to vote how you want when the time comes. However, your job job is to follow the rule of law so that the voters can decide not to try to persuade them in one way or another. In several recent Facebook posts, one council member using her official public Facebook page, identifying herself as a council member, stated, quote, "This whole thing is a big waste of time and money," unquote. And that initiative is a lie and will fail. The proponents went through all the proper legal process for writing and presenting the initiative and gathering the required number of signatures. They do not deserve to be insulted like this, especially by elected officials. Some of you have been very unprofessional regarding this issue, and every citizen of Eureka, no matter how they feel about the Housing for All and Downtown Vitality Initiative, should be very concerned about your behavior. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. So we are going to take 2 more comments this evening. We'll start with you, Marion, and then we'll end up doing the end of public comment after we've done our city business. No, you're next, and then Marion. Yeah, and then we're done with public comment until we're done with all of city business. You're welcome to stay. We'd love to have you. So come on up. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Jamila. I've been an Arcata, Eureka citizen for 15 years. I'm a social work student at Cal Poly Humboldt. I'm speaking on behalf of Humboldt for Palestine as a Palestinian. My family is from Gaza. I still have family in Gaza. Those that are still alive, that have survived this genocide thus far, that are trapped and are supposedly supposed to be safe, but they're not. So every day I'm waking up in just terror in that they're going to be the ones that are next to be pulled from the rubble or to be identified by their blown apart body parts that are scattered in millions of directions, because that's our reality. This is our reality as Palestinians. So your decision to pull this resolution from the agenda out of fear that it's going to cause more division and hate in our community is actually an act of violence in and of itself, because we are literally witnessing a genocide and an ethnic cleansing of Palestinians, live broadcast on TV by Israel with our tax dollars. So my question to you is, how are you going to feel? Maybe soon, maybe in a couple years, or maybe once all the Palestinians have been ethnically cleansed, how are you going to feel about that? That you didn't take an active public stance condemning this genocide, condemning this illegal Israeli apartheid, just to make some white people feel not uncomfortable? Is that really where we're at here? Who knew we'd live to see the day where a genocide was such a politically divisive issue? So we want to talk about peace. We want to talk about nonviolence. We want to talk about not creating division. So what does peace look like to you? Because what we're being shown is that in order for there to be peace, Palestinians need to be killed. So how many Palestinians? Well, since October 7th alone, over 21,000 Palestinians have been massacred by Israel. This doesn't even take into account the last 75 years of Israel ethnically cleansing Palestinians since 1948. This doesn't even take those numbers into account. Okay, so we're getting the message 20,000 isn't enough. So what's it going to be? 100,000? 2 million? The rest of the Palestinians just in general? Is that what it's going to take for there to be peace? Because if you are not actively taking a public and clear stance condemning this genocide, naming it for what it is, and condemning Israeli apartheid, then you are the ones who are violent and dangerous to this world. You are the ones that are responsible for the continuation of this genocide and the mass murder of Palestinian families and children. You are the ones with this blood on your hands.
Thank you for being here. Ms. Brady, come on up. And as I said before, this will be the end of public comment until after we finish city business. So we won't be taking any more public comment. And for you online, we'll be doing that at the end of the meeting as well. So thanks for being patient.
Okay, so I'm Marion Brady, and
Welcome.
I'm here to talk about the putting the initiative, to having a special meeting to put the initiative on the March 5th ballot. So my points I'd like to make to all of you is that if it's true that the state has made March 5th a general election, then the advice you've been given is an error, and you can put the housing parking initiative on the March ballot as a special election. Perhaps Mr. Cervantes would know the answer. And if so, you can add it to tonight's meeting with a majority vote to having a special meeting before December 8th to add it to the March primary or general or special election, whatever it's going to be called. Interestingly, with the True Ward system, only 20% of all registered City of Eureka voters elect their council member, not 100% of the whole city as in past elections. To win a seat, the winning candidate must get a majority of the votes cast in that ward. So that's 1/5 of all registered city voters, which is 3,172 per ward. A majority of that, which you have to have a majority, is 1,586 in that ward to elect a council member. Cute fact. The spurious argument that since only 12.4 of the whole city, 1,974, signed the initiative doesn't compare too badly with the fact that only 1,586 elected any of you. Bottom line, the issue that I have is that while the city plans to build on four existing parking lots, they actually plan to use 9 in total. I believe that's the plan. So not only taking away the 218 existing on 4 lots, but add 5 more to that for the now 9 total that will remove off-street parking. Then add in all the 9 lots full of 34 tenants now parking on the streets, and you get an additional 306 if 1 car per apartment. And that compounds the loss of lot parking to over 772 if the plan is carried out as planned. All parking on city streets. They will all be parking on city street. All the dwellers are on the streets. All the dwellers will park on the streets since all the buildings have only a token 2 or 3 parking spaces, I think, like for service trucks, that kind of thing, or an ambulance to come to take away people. So the council says they won't have any effect on downtown, Old Town business revenue. Short-sighted council with long-term implications. I think my numbers are conservative because if any of the apartments hold couples, there may be 2 cars, and they are not unemployed people, but those with incomes 45 to 56,000 with jobs to go to. Just please put it on the March 5th ballot. Thanks.
Thank you, Marion. And with that, we will close public comment and revisit that at the end of the meeting. Oh, no.
No peace on stolen land. Justice is our demand. No peace on stolen land.
We're going to go ahead and take a recess.
No peace.
Okay, friends, we're really sorry about the disruption, but we're glad to be back. And we are going to begin with our consent calendar. All matters listed under this category are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. Pursuant to City Council Resolution 2011-22, if a member of the public would like an item on the consent calendar pulled and discussed separately, the request shall be made to a council member prior to the meeting. Unless a specific request is made by a council member, the consent calendar will not be read. There will be no separate discussion of these items. And was there anyone that wanted anything pulled? No? No. So we're going to actually pull the Highland Park Renovation Project Award and have Project Manager Slattery talk about that for a moment.
Thank you, and good evening, Mayor and Council. So this project has been near and dear to my heart for a very long time. Ever since I started working for the city, this park has been on my radar. This area has the highest percentage of K through 12 children in the area, and because of funding issues over the many decades, it's been in not the best shape and had a lot of deferred maintenance that need to be taken care of. So when I was in my previous position, we made all of our best efforts to try and find grant funding for this project, and was never successful. One of the reasons being is because the state's Fort Humboldt is considered a park, and therefore this area is not considered park deficient. And so we worked really hard to get naming rights funding, small non-competitive funding to go towards it, and as well as an allocation from our facilities fund that we've more recently been able to fund and have budgeting for. So this project went out to bid in early November. It closed on November 28th. We're asking that you guys award the bid. The project itself will include a complete resurfacing of the tennis courts. They're the only full 4 sets of tennis courts that's allowed for public play in all of Humboldt County, I believe. And included with the resurfacing, there'll be restriping for not only the tennis courts, but also 8 pickleball courts. We'll also be resurfacing and repaving all of the trails that go through the park, and including an ADA accessible trail from Highland up to the new restroom and concession stand. So the existing restroom and concession stand will be replaced by a brand new one that will have fully ADA compliant and make it so that we can have a restroom for the people in the park there as well. So with that, we're asking that staff recommends awarding this to Hooven and Company, and you can just say that if you want to make a motion to move staff's recommendation for this.
Is there anyone here who'd like to comment on this item? Come on up.
On the Highland Park.
On Highland Park, right?
Okay.
Great.
My only concern is this Hooven and Company a local business, because we want to do local people, as opposed to people from, like, say, Portland, Oregon? That's my question.
Great. And I believe that is the case. Hooven is from Humboldt. So thank you for pointing that out. It's really important to support our local businesses. I appreciate you for saying that. Okay, so is there anybody on Zoom that's here to comment on the Highland Park item? It's really hard to tell. So we're just going to go ahead.
Someone put their hand down, I guess.
Okay. I don't see anyone. So we're going to bring it back to council for a motion. Oh, Councilmember Moulton?
I'd love to hear all the details of this. I suppose we got a few, but I just want to make a motion to move staff recommendation. I'm very excited about this work on Highland Park. Jewel of the Second Ward.
Nice.
Second.
Great. So we have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Let's see if we can get it to work.
Unanimous yes vote, motion carries.
Thank you. And a point of order, if I could get approval of the balance of the consent calendar, a motion for that?
Move to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
Please vote.
Unanimous yes vote, motion carries.
Thank you. Legislative action correspondence. Does anybody have any legislative action they want to discuss? Seeing no one, we will move forward to reports and action items. And this is a very exciting thing for our city. We have a presentation from Eddie Alexander, our marketing report. And if you'd like to come on up, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you.
Good evening, Council. Thank you for having me this evening. If you'll give me just a moment to get the presentation up. These ladies are amazing. Thank you, guys. Excellent. So I have some handouts to share with you all tonight, and Pam Powell has offered to hand them out. So you have them when we get to that section of the presentation. So, is this better? I can try and speak louder. Is that helpful? Okay. Just let me know if you need me to level
Thank
up.
you.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for having me here. As you all know, we've been working with the city of Eureka for about 4.5 years now, and our team has had the privilege of helping guide a process through sort of a textbook buildup, and you all have afforded us the opportunity to really build in a way that is very strategic, very calculated, and is providing iterative value. It's measurable, and I hope you'll see that here tonight. The last 6 months or so since the last time I was in front of you has been particularly rewarding for our team. We've gotten to work on a number of initiatives that are really about engaging the community, something we wanted to do very early on, but we were focused on laying the groundwork and the foundation for what was to come. And so I'm pleased to take you through some of these sort of level up exercises that we have been going through over the last few months. So first, before we get started, some of you know Kayla Corder on our team is currently out on maternity leave. I'm very pleased to present that, or to advise that she has had a very healthy baby boy, and her family is doing very well. We can't wait to welcome her back, but we're glad she has this time home with her family. While she has been out, Nicola Waugh has stepped in. Nicola is a marketing manager across our entire client portfolio, but she has been helping fill in here in Eureka for Kayla. She is local. She teaches at Humboldt State and has been a really amazing member of our team. So I'd like to recognize Nicola, just make sure everybody here in the room has a face with a name. And I'm very pleased that we're growing our team on the ground here. We've been really lucky to find incredible talent and hopefully to bring opportunities and resources to them as they advance their careers as well. So when we were first hired by the City of Eureka, there were 3 primary goals that were laid out for us in the original RFP that the city issued and that we responded saying that we would commit to doing. And so I try and start every presentation with just kind of a reminder and a recentering of what you asked us to do and a little bit of a progress report on what we've done. So in the initial proposal, there were 3 main goals: city-centric branding, tourism marketing, and quality of life promotion within the community. In the first year, as you know, we started with kind of a listening tour. We did a survey and lots of focus groups and interviews with different community leaders and the public at large to get a sense of how the community wanted to be positioned in the world, what they wanted to advise on, and how they wanted to present the city to visitors, to tourists. And so that initiative took about a year, and then we rolled out new visual identity, which I know now is very familiar. It's throughout City Hall, it's throughout the city, and every time I come back into town, I get really excited to see new places where that branding has been adopted and built out in a beautifying way. The second initiative was tourism marketing. That has been underway now for about 3.5 years. That also is continuing to provide really good metrics for us about the amount, increasing the length of stay. I've got some data here tonight to show you that it's having real economic impact. So we're continuing to do that and to monitor that. And then over the last year and a half or so, we've really been able to focus on some quality of life promotion activities, really partnering with different groups that are putting on events and activities in the community, making sure we're shining a spotlight on what's so positive and successful here in the community and what really culturally makes this place so special, in my opinion. So we're going to highlight some of that for you as well. So the first thing we did, and some of you have seen this before, but for those who might be newer to it, is that every year or so we do an analysis of cell phone data in the region. We use aggregate geolocation data to see where our visitors are coming from, to understand the demographics that are bringing them here, understand what they're doing when they're in the region, and use that to make our marketing more effective. So to target more effectively with the limited dollars that we have to spend to move people around the community so more of our assets can be promoted and be experienced by visitors. And so I want to give you just a quick update on some of what we found. And this is 2022 data. We get it about a year lag time behind. So I want to give you just kind of a quick update here. The first thing is visitors by age. We're starting to see a greater spread of age. We think this is a very good thing. We think this is partly because of the Redwood Skywalk, but it's also just an increase in assets that are family friendly, that are all age friendly, really. And so we're very pleased about that. As you look at the trends over time, they're fairly consistent, but you're starting to see a little bit more of a leveling. Some of the ones that were a little lower are getting a little bigger. Some of the ones that were a little bit bigger of a share are getting a little smaller. But we have people under 18 all the way to 65 plus that are really enjoying time in the city, and they're enjoying for longer and spending more money when they're here, which has great economic benefit in the community too. So visitors by education level, we're having a similar kind of shift happening. This one is a little bit less clear to me why it's happening the way that it's happening. You'll see from 2019 to 2022, we've got a little bit of an increase in no high school. We have consistency in high school graduates, a little bit of an increase in two-year college or some college experience, a little bit of a dip in our bachelor degree holding visitors, and a little bit of dip in our higher degree holding individuals. The only thing I can maybe guess to explain this is that we're starting to see a national trend where higher education is not an immediate path after high school for a lot of folks. So we may be getting just kind of a percentage shift that's reflecting that national trend. Then visitors by household income. We are continuing to see pretty steady numbers here. I think what we're seeing is that this is a drive market for a lot of communities, and this has always been a community that has welcomed a variety of visitors. So you have hotels and accommodations and experiences that cater to a very high-end audience, a cultural traveler who comes and leaves a lot of money behind, has a higher maybe level of disposable income. But you also have very affordable assets. You have public art, you have parks, you have hiking experiences. And so what you're getting is a lot of different folks. On average, these household demographics tend to be a little bit lower than the national average. That really doesn't mean much, except for it makes you a little bit more susceptible to dips in the economy. So every time there's a news cycle that says, the economy is shaky, you start to get a little bit of a dip in your occupancy in your hotels. And we've seen that reflected over the last couple of years as everyone has really navigated a number of different economic downturns and questionable moments with the pandemic and everything else. So we also look at visitors by ethnic affiliation. The only really sizable shift here is we're starting to see a little bit fewer Caucasian visitors and a little bit of an increase in your Hispanic Latinx community. Nothing major. I think it's about a 1% shift over the last 4 years, but it's worth noting because it's really the only shift that we're seeing here. So when you look at kind of the trends and who your visitors are and where they're coming from, these little spark lines it's a lot of data in one sheet that looks like we scribbled, but basically in each block, we're looking at a different element. So in the top left, we're looking at about 20% of your visitors have been under 18 consistently since we started working with the city of Eureka. It's got a little bit of a curve to it. So we had a little bit lower at the beginning, a little bit higher during the pandemic as families tried to sort of get away from the city, and we saw a lot of people coming up during the fires and that sort of thing, and then has kind of dipped back down to where 2019 is. Really not very dramatic in terms of changes across all of these. But you're seeing sort of 2019, 2020, 21, 22 for each group across here. And what I would point out is it's been pretty consistent in terms of your visitation. And your feeder markets have been pretty consistent too. So in terms of trip duration, this is probably the slide I'm most proud of, although it's not my prettiest slide here in the deck tonight. It's that your visitors are staying longer and spending more when they're here. So the duration of your trips has gone up over time. So the average duration of your trip when we started in 2019 was 2.25 days. It is now at 2.96. That's a dramatic increase when you think about the economic impact of those visitors staying longer, eating more meals, going to more attractions, spending for admissions, and shopping in your downtown or Henderson Center or one of the many places you have to offer. So we're very, very pleased with that number going up and really jumping pretty significantly since last year. That's a trend we want to see. When we look at our feeder markets and where people are coming from, you'll notice that these heat maps from 2019 to 2022 are pretty consistent. What I will point out is that you have a little bit less visitation from the East Coast post-pandemic. I think that will come back. There's no way to know for sure, but I'm guessing that some of that traffic that was pinging as East Coast traffic was actually European traffic that was sort of coming into the country on the East Coast and then making its way west. As the international markets pick up, I think you'll start to see that East Coast light up again. What we have seen an increase in, though, is your West Coast visitation. It used to be primarily California. Now it's also Oregon and Washington, and we'll get into that here in just a minute. So when we look at our top feeder markets by city or metro, we see a lot of consistency over time. The people who are coming here are coming from the same places. You've got established reputations in certain zip codes in certain cities, and a lot of that is because a lot of your traffic is coming as drive market. You're also seeing a lot of drive market coming. You're also seeing an increase in your airline traffic coming into the city from when we first started. That's a good sign. It's starting to diversify. It also means you're bringing in a higher income traveler into some of your establishments, which hopefully has a greater economic impact over time. But it's not enough to really tip the feeder market trend as you look at the top 20. Then when you look at your feeder market states, this is what I was referring to before. In 2019, we had about 52% of your folks coming from California, and then about 9% coming from Oregon, 5% coming from Washington. As of today, or as of end of 2022, technically. We have 59% coming from California, but we have 12% coming from Oregon and 4% coming from Washington. And as you drill into that data, you're starting to see sort of greater percentages in each of the zip codes that are driving the majority of your traffic. So as we drill down into this map, we're looking at what are the top feeder markets. Now we use this kind of micro level data to micro target our ads. So when we can be very specific about who we want to show our ads to, we're competing against fewer people for those audiences, and we're able to get more exposure with people who are more likely to take action for less money. That's an equation that we all like. The visualization on the right just sort of shows you how consistent it has been over time. One of the things we're doing with our ad budget now is that we're taking these zip codes. Those are still our core. We don't want to abandon that core, but we know we've got really good reputation in those zip codes. So we're just now starting to target the zip codes that are adjacent to that, so that we're expanding that community, but we're doing it in really targeted ways. So trying to kind of keep that in balance and move forward steadily in the directions that we want, but in ways that are very measurable and don't blow up our ad budgets over time. So what does that mean for our hotel visitations? There's 3 different metrics that we look at in terms of measuring how successful our local hotels are doing and our lodging and accommodations. We look at occupancy, how many people are in the hotel. We look at average daily rate, so how much money are they making for selling each hotel room night, and then revenue per available room, which is sort of a merge of the two, which gives us a better barometer of how things are going. So what we've seen is that over time, your occupancy has actually gone down a little bit. We saw that with the pandemic, and it hasn't fully recovered yet, but your average daily rates went way up during the pandemic, and they have held steady. And so that has made your average daily rate consistent, which has kept your tax revenue collections on tourism, visitation based revenue pretty consistent over time. So they went up and they've sort of stayed up, and we hope that that will continue at least at that level and hopefully continue to increase over the next couple of years. So we were talking a little bit about who your visitor is and the economic makeup and impact of that visitor. This is data we actually didn't collect. This is data from last week from the Futures Group, another well-respected tourism analytics company that we work with some level of frequency. They just released this last week, and I thought it was highly relevant to the conversation we were having today. They just did a national study and said in the past 6 months, which, if any, of the following kept you traveling more than you would have otherwise preferred, kept you from traveling more than you otherwise would have preferred. And the top 4 here are all related to finances. So travel's too expensive right now, personal financial reasons, gasoline was too expensive, airfare was too expensive. So when you are working with a visitation group that's slightly lower than the national average in terms of household income, this has a greater effect on your community than it might in, say, New York City or San Francisco or something like that. So we believe that correlates with what we were seeing in terms of the STR data on the previous slide. So what do we do with all of that data, right? We got to look at it. We use it to place ads. We use it to make decisions about what kind of content we develop, and we use it to decide what we're going to invest in to have the most economic benefit for the community with the resources that you've entrusted us with managing. So one thing we've been doing for several years now is running digital ads in each of these feeder markets. So we're using that data to target, which I talked about, but we're also looking at different ad groups to see which messages are resonating most effectively. So we're doing a lot of A/B testing. You've heard me talk previously about which ad groups are performing best, and you've heard me talk about promoting some of the events that are happening in the community in addition to the ads that are talking about outdoor recreation, history and architecture, and arts and culture. Those have been going very, very well. And for the first time this past quarter, actually some of the events ads performed better than some of the kind of the larger awareness ads that we had running. That told us 2 things. One, the community partnership and promotions initiative that we're working on is really working particularly well, that we're driving people not just to be aware of Eureka as a place they want to come visit, but to actually come into town for specific events. But we also recognize that it's time to switch up some of the creative to keep it fresh in the markets that we're running. So we've been working with a number of local photographers over the past 12 months or so. We've gotten some really wonderful photos of some amazing events in the community, and we've recently updated some of the ads. The ones on the right here are some of my favorite new ones, and those are just recently launched, like in the last week, but they're performing really well out of the gate. So we're pretty happy about that. In general, we're getting almost 400,000 impressions monthly. That's driving about 23,000 ad-driven traffic visits to visiteureka.com. That's on top of organic visits, event calendar visits, that sort of thing. The outdoor activities ad group is currently driving the most traffic. That changes different times of year, different interest areas, and different news cycles, but that's currently what's going on. The Street Art Festival and Independence Day events in Eureka really shot up with interest and click-through rates this year. Who would have thought? But that is that the Independence Day surprised me, because lots of communities have Independence Day celebrations and fireworks, but Eureka's got people to take action. So that's pretty fun, and I think a testament to the folks that were helping to organize those events. And then we're continuing to drive average cost per click down, significantly outperforming industry averages, which I think is a testament to the team's ability to effectively manage the resources and really apply that data to drive real actionable value. Some of the community events that we've had the privilege of promoting this year are Humboldt Marble Weekend, Hearts by the Sea, 4th of July, Forest Moon Festival, Kinetic Sculpture Race, Street Art Festival, Kite Festival, CanaFest, Cruise in Eureka, Redwood Coast Music Festival, the Craftsman Veterans Day event that just happened, and then this Thursday, the Waitress Musical Red Carpet event at Broadway Theater. The Humboldt Marble Weekend was rescheduled, so that started and then stopped, but we're really pleased we'll be able to help promote it for 2024. So we passed out at the beginning of the presentation a set of new brochures. These are fresh off the press, but also we did a run of 10, so we're doing final press checks to make sure they work, and then are going to be working with the Humboldt Visitor Center, or the Eureka Visitor Center, to get these distributed. This they look like 10 small brochures, but the team has been working for over a year with lots and lots of businesses in the community to get all of the listings created and updated and aligned to each business's individual desire to tell their story in specific ways. So a culmination of a lot of work, and our team is really excited to get them into the visitor centers and distributed into other visitor centers in the region to really tell the city's story and really go deeper in terms of promoting what the community has to offer. So you'll see there's one dedicated to the Cultural Arts District, one to music and festivals in the region, one to the historic architecture in the region, one to the history of the community, one to family activities, outdoor adventures, cannabis experiences, and dog-friendly businesses and activities in the city. So as with any printed asset, as soon as it gets printed and distributed, it will be out of date and we will need to update it with new content. So we would just ask for the community's support that if you see a business has changed names or locations or things like that, that if you see something go out of date, let us know so that we can get it in queue for the next print run to get produced. But print brochures are still doing particularly well. Our visitor center has undergone some really incredible transformation with some leadership from city staff, and they will benefit from having some of these ready packaged materials available. So as part of this, we've also been updating Visit Eureka, and I am super excited about this new launch. So starting in the new year, the Visit Eureka site is going to get a bit of an upgrade. Some of it will be a visual refresh that you'll notice, but a lot of it is on the back end. It's the technology that's underpinning the website itself. So there's a number of new capabilities that this website will offer that integrates directly with what the visitor staff can do on the ground. So in the marketing world, we call that omni-channel experiences that we're creating, but really it means that if you go online and you look for events and you create an itinerary, you can then email that itinerary to yourself, print it out, bring it with you. If you walk into the visitor center, you can tell them what you're interested in, and we can build a custom itinerary for you right there and print it out and send you on your way, and we can promote more of what the community has to offer. One of the most exciting things about this technology is we're also allowing business owners to really control their own promotions and update in real time. So rather than asking everybody to email us every time they have a date change or they want to change a picture or that sort of thing, their Google business listing, which is something that businesses should be doing anyway for their own search engine optimization, will automatically feed into this new website. We'll get a chance to look at it just to make sure there's nothing crazy in there that we wouldn't want to on a publicly funded site, and then we can push it live immediately. So if you update your hours, if you change the pictures, you control all of that in real time, and more businesses can get more exposure. This site will also pull through things like reviews and bookings and all kinds of things. So as our businesses in the community get more sophisticated with their own technology, it will pull through right away. All of that will be gathered here on the Visit Eureka site. It will mean that more people can spend more time on our site, not having to go to other sites, which will increase the organic exposure that site gets in search engine optimization. All of that is more earned value for city promotion. So I know I can get really in the weeds and nerdy on all of this, but we're really excited about it. There is social media integration.
We need to take a 3-minute break.
Sure.
If we could. Yeah. And we'll be right back.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. So if I could get council to come take their seats, please. Thank you. We apologize for the interruption, but we're ready to go again.
Okay. Great. So I'll talk you through just a little bit more of the capabilities here. I want to stress the level of speed at which you've been able to go from getting this site up and running, getting all the content into it, to this level of sophistication. We're really, really excited about being able to introduce this next level of technology and then what that's going to do in terms of the fully integrated program. So I know it's technical and I know it's a little nerdy, but I appreciate you sticking with me here as I walk through it. So the new website will have several areas for new fast fact widgets and snippets for enhanced SEO. So for those who do search engine optimization for websites, the more little like mini answers to questions you have, the more when someone searches that your content gets pulled up at the top of the list. So this new website design will allow for some of that capability. We have promotional feature boxes that enhance storytelling. They also allow a lot of seasonal customization. So we can do a feature on the Truckers Parade, or we can call out the Redwood Skywalk right in the spring when we know everybody's getting ready to book their summer vacations. The information request forms have been updated. They just load a little bit faster. And there's a whole kind of content library that's behind it now. So when somebody signs up, they get an immediate thing. They get onto a seasonal newsletter and some other things, so that they're hearing from Eureka more often with more positive news and seeing more of what there is to do here. So hopefully when they are planning their trips, they're staying longer, spending more, and enjoying all the community has to offer. And then a streamlined footer with faster access to contact information, location details, cross-linked partner information, and that sort of thing. The events work similarly to the event listings. They pull through automatically. So if someone has a Facebook event or a Google event created, or a website dedicated to an event in our region, it's going to be picked up and pulled into a feed that our team can review and approve. Same thing, they can control their photos, they can control their content. A lot of really amazing opportunities for more people who are putting on more events to have more support from our team, and we're really excited to be able to offer it. Again, that human review is allowing us to put more of our attention on making sure the content is packaged up well and going out to the public effectively, and less time sort of reaching out trying to get the content, and it's one less thing for busy business owners and event planners to do. So really excited about that. I also had a wonderful dinner last night with Nancy from the Chamber, and they have agreed to help us get this information out to business owners and to event planners in the community, so that more people can take advantage of these new capabilities in a self-service fashion. So really excited about partnering with them in that way as well. The Google Places populate in a similar way. So all of our attractions have the same capabilities if they have a Google Places listing, which they should for search engine optimization. And if they don't, I hope they'll call me and I can help them get that. But that will auto-populate as well. So as people leave reviews, as people go and have a great time and post social media pictures, all of that can feed through, and our website really becomes the hub of content, positive content about the city of Eureka and all there is to see and do here. On the right, you'll see there's these sort of Google Maps with pins. Another neat feature is, as you're going through the website and you're finding businesses that interest you, places that interest you, or events that interest you, you can add them to your sort of My Trip planner. You can create your own custom itinerary. It will give you your own map of where you might want to go when you're here. You can email that to yourself. You can print it out if you're at the visitor center. And we can also create itineraries and have them ready to go. So if we want to do a mural tour, we can have all those pins kind of, here's 10 places you might want to see the architecture in the community, or here's 10 parks you might want to hit while you're here. And folks can either pick items from that and make their own trip, or they can kind of follow this predetermined path to see more of what the community has to offer. So we're just making the information a lot more accessible than it was before. So that's kind of it on the website. On the Redwood Skywalk front, it's been a really exciting year, really exciting 6 months. Just after I was last in front of you, the community helped vote, as did the nation, on USA Today's poll for best aerial adventures in the country. And wouldn't you know it, our own Redwood Skywalk won #1 in the country. And that has gotten us a lot of extra media attention, lots of fun badges we've been able to put on our promotional materials, and even more traffic to the website and at the gate as well. Jim and the team over at the zoo have been doing a really fantastic job. Obviously, the new bears are a big excitement for all of us. The new exhibit opened, the new area of the habitat opened this past week. And so lots of folks have been posting on social media about how excited they are to see the bears enjoying the waterfall and all of that. And it's been a privilege for our team to see how hard that team has been working to make all of that happen. So that's been pretty cool. In addition to that, the zoo and the Skywalk received national recognition at the AZA conference I think it was in Ohio this year. 2 very nice, exciting awards. And the awards amongst themselves were very exciting, but also the recognition. We were amongst some of the best zoos and aquariums in the country. The Redwood Skywalk and the Sequoia Park Zoo were named alongside the Monterey Bay Aquarium and the San Diego Zoo, which in many circles are considered to be 2 of the best in the country. So our little community zoo is really making a lot of waves, and there's a great team that's working to promote it and to build it and to grow it. And I just can't say enough about all the positive stuff that's happening there. So pretty excited about that. Also upcoming is Zoo Lights. So that's a whole new initiative we're sort of dipping our toe into this year, but hopefully that will grow over time and become sort of a treasured attraction that people look forward to in the holiday season. And I think I've hit everything on this slide. All right, the media also loves Eureka. This is nothing new, but the stories this year are new. Since February of 2023, we've had 64 media placements that have reached about 25.1 million viewers. That's included 6 Visit California partnership places that have to be sort of competed against other destinations in the state. And California is a competitive environment, you might imagine. When we're looking at other destinations, there's lots to see and do here. So we're really excited that we're getting what we believe to be more than our fair share of attention from Visit California, and we're deepening that relationship. We've also hosted 3 really powerful influencer visits that have driven social media content and engagement well beyond what we had expected out of those efforts. The topics covered have aligned to the message house we rolled out when we rolled out our brand 3 years ago. They're all around history and architecture, outdoor recreation, and arts and culture, and there's lots of stories to tell, and we're really excited about the depth and the level of detail and the positive support we're getting from the media around all of that media coverage as well. Influencers are also singing Eureka's praises. Sometimes influencers it's a tricky area because influencers come in, they want to be hosted, and then they can say whatever they want, and there's not a whole lot of accountability. So we always want to make sure we're judicious in who we're picking and inviting to come in, but we also want to make sure that they're having a great experience when they're here, because they do actually have influence on visitors that are coming to the area. So we've been getting universally great coverage from everybody who's coming into town, and some are even coming into town and not contacting us and just putting great coverage out. So even better when it doesn't have to be, carefully curated. It's not surprising to me that people are having a great time when they're here, but it's really encouraging that they're picking up the materials that have been created and following the itineraries and doing what we want them to do and getting other people to do that as well. Along those lines, that website, our current website and the new Visit Eureka upgraded website will also has an area where people can say, I want more information on the city of Eureka. That list has grown pretty tremendously over the last 3.5 years. We have thousands of people on that list. And we were sending them information when they first asked, and then we weren't really doing a whole lot with that content. We have recently started a new seasonal newsletter. So in the fall, we pushed out our first seasonal fall newsletter. There'll be another one here in January for the winter newsletter, and then we'll hope to do that quarterly as sort of a preview to the season, promoting all the upcoming events, hopefully getting people who have either been here before or expressed interest in coming here before to come back and to plan a more significant visit or vacation. Today, Catherine and Bob from my team, who have both been in front of you guys as well, are down in Sacramento. They had an opportunity to participate in a destination showcase, and they got to spend the day talking with 65 Visit California leaders from across the state, all about everything there is to do in Eureka. You'll see on the picture on the left, we created these little wheels that had, one was for outdoor recreation, one for history and architecture, and one for arts and culture. They each had 14 of the many attractions we have here, and we talked about each of these kind of portfolios of activities in the region with groups of 10 to 20 people that came throughout the day. They sent these pictures. It looks like they did a great job, and I guarantee you we were the most colorful booth there. But they wrote me back. I just got a text this evening that said it was completely worth it. Next time we should send everybody. It was a great opportunity to network and promote all there is to see and do in Eureka. So we're excited to be sending those wheels back, and we're hoping that there's something that the community can use at Arts Alive and in the Visitor Center and in other ways in the future. But a great opportunity to talk about all of the great stuff that's here. Okay, so this Thursday at the Broadway Theater is the premiere event for Sarah Bareilles' Waitress, the musical play that has been transformed into a movie. We're very excited to partner with the Humboldt Del Norte Film Commission and with Broadway Theater to present this as a red carpet premiere. So there will be a red carpet rolled out. Anyone who buys tickets to the 7 p.m. show will be invited to walk the red carpet. There'll be a photographer there. There will be a raffle. We've had several businesses who have donated pies, so we will give away those pie prizes. Sarah has also signed several movie posters, so we'll be raffling those off as well. And there's some Sarah trivia and fun fact. It is actually Sarah's birthday on Thursday as well. So if you want to come out and celebrate with us, we are really excited to have you. Hopefully this is a way that the community can celebrate one of our own. So in addition to the Association of Zoos and Aquariums, promotions and awards and recognitions, we have also recently received 2 other awards, and I apologize because we had the trophies shipped here. There were 3 trophies, actually, 2 for the Summit International Creative Awards and 1 for the Vega Digital Award. But due to shipping delays, they are not here with me tonight, so the picture will have to suffice until I can get them here into City Hall for you all to hold. But the Vega Digital Award and the 2 Summit Creative Awards were for the interactive media and promotion work that has gone alongside all of this marketing stuff that we're showing you here tonight. And then most excitingly, as we kind of look at everything we've been working on, we've been able to partner with the city staff running the Visit Eureka Welcome Center. And this past end of last month, I guess, we submitted a application for a highly competitive opportunity to make the Welcome Center here in Eureka a Visit California officially designated Welcome Center. So we should hear back in the next couple of days. It's good that we were in Sacramento making friends, I'm sure. But we are hoping that we will be selected as finalists and we'll have the opportunity to host the committee making those decisions for a visit to the Visitor Center here in the January-February timeframe. The benefit of participating in this program is a tremendous increase in exposure, highway signs on the highways, inclusion on maps. The state of California has a large media budget. They promote internationally, nationally, and within the state, and they promote where their welcome centers are. There's typically 1 per region in the state, and so we want to be the North Coast's destination for visitors, and we think we have a really good shot. So fingers crossed, we should hear something in the next few weeks. So we're hoping we'll make it to the next phase. With that, I'd like to open it up to any questions, but I also know it's been a long evening, so if there are no questions, I won't take it personally as well.
Are there any questions from council? Councilmember Castellano?
Sure. Thanks so much for being here. I just noticed when you're, wow, my mic's really hot today. I noticed when you were showing the slides about the percentages of, visitors, and kind of tracking the different data, it seemed like really the changes were 1% to 2%. So that's relatively constant over the last 4 years.
Yeah. There's been an increase in the tax revenue because of the increase in the rate that people are paying for overnight visitation. You are also looking at really a 4-year trend that was condensed down into 2 because COVID was right in the middle of it, right? So the first year we weren't really marketing, we were building the brand locally. And then the second 2 years we were starting to advertise, but it was during COVID and people really weren't traveling. And then in the last year and a half or so, we're starting to see an increase, but the economic downturn is starting to affect tourism kind of across the state, or across the country. So all of those factors make it kind of all level out in a way that's a little frustrating to see, but also we know that the levers that we want to move are moving in the right direction. People are staying longer, they're spending more for the hotels. That means we're attracting the kind of visitation we want, but because of some of the other factors, it's going to take a little bit for that to show in the charts in the direction we want.
Yeah, and thanks. And then you work nationally. Are there trends you're seeing at the national level that you think might be reflected in Eureka, or things that you're forecasting for the next, after 4 years, the upcoming 4 years?
Yeah. So there are several things. One, the travelers becoming much more sophisticated in how they search and plan their vacations. So I'm very excited about where we're able to get this website and what that's going to do in terms of exposure, organic exposure for visitors who are interested in a North Coast experience in California. So that's a huge advantage. A lot of communities received a lot of money through ARPA funds following the pandemic, and it was in many states designated directly towards tourism. So in California, it didn't flow exactly that way, but in some states and a lot of states, they looked at what industries were impacted most directly, and the industry that was most impacted in most states was tourism, and they gave a percentage and said this ARPA funds have to be used for these ways. So what we're seeing in terms of impact is that it's now more expensive to place ads than it was pre-pandemic because more communities have money for tourism and are placing ads for the first time. And also many communities are investing in their infrastructure and their assets. And so you're seeing a lot more projects like the Redwood Skywalk that came about because there was this one-time funding. Not so much in California because the money flowed differently through your legislature, but it is something to keep in mind because it is a moment where there's a lot of money going into tourism. A lot of communities are investing in it. And that's kind of competition for the moment. Eureka is well differentiated, and I think you're getting incredible value on the ads that you're spending. We know you're getting, you're paying about half of what is industry average for each click through to your website and each ad exposure that we're participating in terms of a buy. So we're very pleased with being able to kind of manage that. There's also some algorithm changes that are happening with Google and some other platforms where we place some of our ads that are making it a little bit more complicated to place the ad. So it used to be you still don't pay for the click, right? You pay for the click, you don't pay for the exposure. So all that exposure was sort of free. They have kind of tightened down how much exposure you've gotten as their algorithms have gotten more sophisticated. They know exactly how much it's going to take to get you the exposure that you want. So to get, say, 100 click-throughs, you used to maybe get, I'm making up numbers, but 10,000 impressions to get to that. And those impressions were sort of free brand awareness advertising. Now they've gotten it down to a science where, if you need 100 visits, maybe they show it 1,000 times. So they've gotten smarter in how they're using the money. So we're playing those games. Right now, everything is holding steady, but those are things that all of our clients are talking about and trying to manage through at the moment.
Thank you. Any further questions? So we'll open this item up for public comment. Is anybody from the audience here to comment on this report? And I can't tell on Zoom because everybody has their hand up. Is there anybody on Zoom that wants to comment on this report?
They can't unmute themselves. 1 second.
If you would like to comment on this item, please unmute yourself.
Looks like.
Okay. Hi.
Hi. Welcome.
My name is Sarai. And yeah, it has been super interesting hearing about tourism. Thank you so much for your report. It has been super interesting hearing about tourism and feeder markets and how to get more people here when the people here do not feel safe or seen or heard. Like we've got all this, you're using our data, you want us to stay in your hotels, and just like your welcomes and your thank yous, like this seems disingenuous. Like we aren't anything more to you than money and numbers, and we're tired of it. 17.8%. You said people don't know, we don't know why these people aren't traveling. I bet you part of that has to do with race. I bet you part of that has to do with feeling like you're safe in a space. I bet you there will be people of color on the front of your guys' materials, where first cultural events and community events are first on the list, but none of those events shouted out to people of color. Like, why would we want to participate and partner with the city of Eureka? Real, authentic, that's what it literally said on your flyers. Y'all are full of it. Like, does the media, do influencers know how we feel here? Like, do influencers know that there hasn't been accountability? Like, do influencers and do people know what it's like? Like, the numbers of Caucasian folks coming to Humboldt are dwindling. Older folks are dwindling. And you want BIPOC folks, you want Black, Indigenous people of color to show up here? And you want us to spend our dollars, spending longer time, spending more money, you want us to spend our dollars, y'all don't care about us at all? That's crazy. I bet you those promotional materials, those click-throughs, those things, I bet you those things are being heightened by y'all's proximity to liberal ideas, y'all's proximity to people of color, y'all's proximity to land acknowledgements and things like that. I bet you guys will be benefited from that, but you really don't care about us at all. And that is clear. It's evident. It's evident in the way that the presentation went. All of the materials, none of those events spoke to people of color. It's clear by the questions y'all had, thinking about the numbers and how to get people in hotels and stuff. Come on. Come on. Like it's really, really, really insulting to sit and listen to a presentation and to sit and to listen to other presentations and different things. We want to engage civilly. We want to be here in these meetings. But we can tell y'all don't care about us at all. Like we can tell. And it's fucking infuriating. It is infuriating. Like I am shaking right now. I am shaking. The ways that we are being used, the ways that we are being ignored after we're being used, the ways that our dollars are being siphoned from us, the ways that our labor, because who's gonna work in these places that y'all are wanting folks to come to? Who does the work there? Who's working on the farms? Who's doing all these things in these hotels? Who are the chefs at the restaurant? It's folks of color, and y'all have done literally everything you can.
Thank you, Sarai. Thanks for being here. Hope you come back. Do you see anybody else on Zoom?
I see two others, but I think
They
that
might
they're
be waiting
some-
for public comment.
comment.
Okay,
Mhm.
so we'll bring it back to council then for comments or a motion to receive this report and file it. Hmm? You just have to receive it. Well,
I'll say thank you. It's lovely seeing all the great things that you highlight about the area outside of here. Thank you.
Could I make one quick comment
Yes, you
in
may.
response? The way our firm believes about tourism, and this is not everyone, but this is how we think about it. Tourism is really about supporting the local community, and the economic impact of it is really about creating funds that can then be used to put towards services. It really should be an investment for the community. So while it can feel perhaps a bit cold as a kind of an economic exercise, that economic exercise is really about the services. And so I feel deeply for what the last speaker just said. And I hope that over time that we have demonstrated, that we will continue to demonstrate that this really is about supporting the community and the community's goals.
appreciate that. Councilmember Fernandez.
Following that, I know we do have groups that represent people of color, particularly Black Humboldt. Have we reached out to them in any way or any capacity?
We have several times, various events and various levels of engagement back, but we will continue to do so, and
Yeah,
we
'cause I
want
know
to
that-
hear those voices and want to be participating. So if there's suggestions from council about other ways we can be thinking about some of these things, we're very open to that as well.
Okay, that's the only distinct group I can think of that's trying to encourage folks to participate.
Yeah, I think there is some of that.
Black-owned
There's some tribal
businesses.
relations. There's some efforts. I know during the year last year, there was a number of businesses that we promoted through Visit Eureka that was specifically an initiative with Black Humboldt.
Okay.
And then through the new website, we've been also working with Cal Poly and some of their diversity outreach groups to identify other groups that we have not connected with yet. So we're hoping to do that. A lot of the work we've done over the last couple of years is really just laying the foundation. But to what I was saying earlier, now that we're getting these tools in place and we're getting these programs in place, it's really putting us in a position where we can start to engage the community more. So there will always be more work to be done, but we're aware of that as a goal and certainly working towards it, and want your feedback about if there's other things that we're not doing that we need to be doing faster or prioritizing in a different way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anything further? Councilmember Castellano?
Though it's, it is related to this marketing effort because, there's distinct marketing for the Cultural Arts District, but I haven't had too much opportunity to share with council and with the public, but there's a Cultural Arts District working group that's been working for the last 6 months on governance for the Cultural Arts District and making really specific requirements for cultural participation in the governance. And so these are folks from the community, from different cultural organizations that are working together to really guide the cultural opportunities and the funding that will be distributed for different events and activities in the upcoming years related to cultural markers and monuments, as well as events and celebrations in the Cultural Arts District. So though it's not quite finalized yet, there will be more opportunities for participation in that in the upcoming months.
Thank you so much. Anything further? So I just want to say, Jennifer, that I really appreciate the remarkable work you're doing. I've noticed a big change in the last 4 years. I think we all have, and I just want to share my appreciation.
Thank you. It's been an honor to work here. We've all fallen in love with Eureka. So.
Great. Well, thank you so much for being here. And with that, we will move on to future agenda items. Does anybody have a future agenda item for this evening? Councilmember Fernandez.
I'd like to get an update on our participatory budget process.
Do we have thumbs up for that? Great. Thank you. Okay, anything further? Mm-mm. All right. City manager reports. City manager Slattery. Tell us about
So just
Eureka
to,
Builds It.
Whoa, they really got me hot. Look out. Hello, hello, hello. Just to follow up on Councilmember Fernandez's, and I'll try and speak a little less loudly, but that is going to be coming to you guys on the second meeting in December, our next meeting, to discuss the fiscal year 22-23 audit and the budget from that, and that a portion of that will relate to the participatory budgeting. So I just have a couple of items before we bring up Director Millar and Economic Development Manager Asbury. One of them has some disappointment, but also a lot of enthusiasm. I just want to announce that our Chief Jarvis, is going to be retiring coming up at the end of this month, at the beginning of January. I really want to express my gratefulness for what he's done for our community. He came to our community when we were having some rough times. His wealth of experience and knowledge in the area of public safety really helped us get through those times. I think it was he's become a great member of our community. He's only been here for 2 years, but he's going to leave a lasting impression on our community. And so I want to thank him for his service. It's been an honor to work with him. The excitement that I have in relation to this is I intend on recommending to council the appointment of Assistant Chief Stevens as our upcoming chief. He has been a very, very dedicated employee of the city of Eureka, and is very well thought of in the community, and I look forward to working with him going forward. But I want to thank Chief Jarvis. I don't believe he's here, and I want to really appreciate what he's done for our community, and I know that he's really appreciated. I'm sure he'll be back up here again. I'm trying to get him to learn how to golf, so hopefully in his retirement he'll get to that. What's a good thing is our incoming chief does golf, so I can golf with him. Anyway, thank you, Chief Jarvis, and congratulations to Stevens. We'll be sending out a press release to this effect tomorrow as well. The other item that I wanted to bring up is a grant that Community Services secured. We came to you a few months ago about applying for a grant for Grace Martin Memorial Park, which is a park that we received funding for through an estate, and it is to build a playground at Sacco Amphitheater adjacent to Howison Park. That grant we leveraged with an application for Land and Water Conservation Fund grant in the amount of $620,000, and we were informed yesterday that we were awarded that grant. And so this will allow for not only the park to happen, but also the complete repaving of the trail through Halverson Park, and the addition of community gardens, kind of small bulb out gardens along that trail as well, which is one of the wishes of Grace Martin. Her and her husband, Lance Hardy, used to sit down at Halverson Park and eat lunch, and always wanted to have some sort of garden aspect to that. So we'll honor that and get that done. So with that, I want to welcome up Economic Development Manager Asbury and Director Millar to discuss our ADU financing program, Eureka Builds It.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Swan Asbury. I'm the Economic Development Manager for the City of Eureka. And tonight I am partnering with our Finance Director, Lane Millar. We're going to be presenting our ADU financing framework, which we are calling Eureka Builds It. So before we get into the program details, just a little bit of background about why we're doing this. Starting in 2019, we adopted our housing element in the housing element, there was 5 different strategies for the creation of housing in Eureka. The second strategy was to encourage accessory dwelling units, and that's what we're going to be focused on for this presentation. In addition to the housing element, also our Economic Development Commission voted and added the creation of an accessory dwelling unit financing program to our Economic Development Strategic Plan. That's the plan that really guides that commission and what our Economic Development Division works on. And then also with your strategic visioning process, you guys also added to build an ADU financing program framework and to initiate 3 projects. So tonight we're talking about the framework. I'm going to talk about the framework. Lane is going to talk about the financing, and we're going to slowly be piecing this together. More of this is going to come to you to be voted on as we pull these pieces together, but we're kind of building this as we go. So the reason that all of this effort is aligning is because this is a really significant opportunity for Eureka. In Eureka, there's 6,000 residential, single-family residential units, and all of them are eligible to have an accessory dwelling unit. And this is an opportunity to add a significant amount of housing to Eureka that won't drastically change the character of Eureka. You'll be able to drive up and down the streets of Eureka, and it'll pretty much look the same, but like along the alleys and spread throughout the city would be these additional housing units. While promoting this since 2019, we consistently hear 2 constraints from people that are interested in doing this. The first one is that they feel overwhelmed by the process. It's a really big deal for a homeowner to build an accessory dwelling unit. If they're not used to doing construction, it's just kind of daunting to do this. The second constraint we hear about is that they can't get financing for the construction of it. So the Eureka Build It program. The whole point of this is to help with the process, to help hold people's hands through the process, make them feel comfortable, do everything we can to help them through the process, and then also to help them with the financing part for the construction. So our program objectives, our first objective is going to be to increase the number of ADUs built in Eureka by 25% within 2 years. I reached out to our building department in 2022. We had building permits for 23 accessory dwelling units, so we'd want to increase that by 6, which is a really attainable goal. We want to provide financial incentives for homeowners to build ADUs. Finance Director Millar will talk about that. We're going to simplify the permitting process for ADU construction, and then to provide a current list of active design and construction professionals, and I'll talk about this a little bit more farther along. So to be eligible, you need to be a homeowner in Eureka. Your property must have a sufficient space for an ADU, and you must comply with the local zoning laws. So this is definitely going to be a team effort. So like the planning department and the building department is part of development services. They're going to be really involved. Finance department's going to be really involved. And then economic development will also be really involved. We're kind of going to be like the glue. This is similar to our cannabis program or our SEPTED program, where economic development kind of holds people's hands through processes while they are doing things with different departments. And so that's really kind of our starting place of how we're going to be helping people do this. And then moving on to our framework. So we've broken this down into 4 phases. Phase 1 is a site analysis and financial capacity. Phase 2 is design and permitting. Phase 3 is construction. And then phase 4 is permanent financing. So going into more detail about phase 1, the site analysis and financial capacity, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to meet with development services, and we're going to go over all the potential ADU development options for an applicant's site. So what their options are for their property. After that, we're going to meet with finance, and we're going to go through a mortgage pre-approval to help determine their financial capacity. For this phase, we have 2 considerations. First of all, we want to consider using an outside source for the pre-approvals, and then Director Millar will talk about needing a separate track for individuals with little or no financial capacity who are willing to provide subsidized housing options. So we'll get into more details about that later. Phase 2 will be design and permitting. So this will be development services and engineering. When staff's looking at this program, we think the biggest part of the risk will be during the construction process. And so we think the best way to go about that is to have a list of design professionals and contractors that we have confidence in being able to do this. So we want to do a request for qualifications process where we'll have a formal process. It'll come before council. People will be able to submit their qualifications and we will vet them. And at the end, we'd like to have a list of architects, engineers, contractors that we have confidence in, that we can give to applicants and be like, this is who we recommend using for this process. Phase 2 is going to be giving this pre-approved list of design professionals to the applicant and then helping them through the permitting process. Phase 3 is going to be construction. Finance is going to do a second financial review prior to the construction. This can run concurrent with the bidding process. And then once construction begins, our building department staff will be doing inspections as we do the payouts so that we can make sure that things are going along in the way that we want them to go as we're paying for it. So this phase will conclude with a certificate of occupancy. And then our last phase, phase 4, is the permanent financing. So once the construction is complete and the applicant has identified a tenant, staff will begin the refinancing process. Based on the HUD income limits, the applicant may be eligible for low rate subsidies or principal forgiveness. And we have 2 considerations for this. The staff time will need to be added into the financing package. We think this will be pretty minimal, but we do need to consider the staff time that will be going into this program. And then the finance department will be identifying multiple financing sources and levels of subsidies and options for applicants. So I'm going to hand it over to Finance Director Millar.
Good evening. So this Eureka Builds It program is really, there's 2 functions going on. There's the technical assistance, but there's also the financing portion, which is, I think, very exciting because the goal here is that we essentially create development opportunities. And by development opportunities, I'm looking at, attached ADUs, detached ADUs, maybe something that's built above the garage or something that's converted. So the goal is that we want to give everybody, no matter their income, the opportunity to potentially build one of these units. We believe that we can find funding opportunities for every level of income that you would see associated with our RENA numbers. We do have financing objectives. I mentioned the first one is that we want to essentially provide this opportunity to everybody. And when I say everyone, I'm really talking about people that can't go to the bank and get a line of credit or a second mortgage. We are going to use a handful of different subsidies to essentially find ways to make sure that whatever rent they charge matches their costs. So with that said, the idea of these subsidies is to both allow someone that might not have the opportunity to build an ADU to build another, extend their property or add value to the property. But it's also, there's a flip side to that. Those subsidies also should result in more affordable housing options in the city of Eureka. Another objective is to simply maximize the amount of outside monies that we can put into this program And really what that is doing is minimizing the risk that the city would take in terms of being the one that's going to carry the note through the construction period. So funding opportunities, some of these we already have and some of these we're still exploring. So the Housing Trust Fund. So we're in the process of setting up a trust fund. Every trust fund needs a program. So we're hoping that this is the first program that the trust fund would essentially provide monies to in the future. We've been awarded PLHA monies. Those are monies coming from the state. We have roughly $500,000 in PLHA monies. CDBG, we're currently sitting on about $600,000 of CDBG monies. We can simply apply to CDBG to see if we can translate those program income dollars into monies for this program. We're going to look at the home program that's at the state, CalHome, and then hopefully in the future we might consider using some local funds if monies do come available. So with the combination of all these pots of money, I do believe that we can easily get to roughly $1 to $3 million by the end of next fiscal year. So we think that's a substantial amount to not only get the first few in the pipeline, but to essentially extend this so that we're hitting our 25% increase goal. We mentioned the financing tools. So they are pretty simple. Essentially, we can do low interest rates, principal forgiveness, or a combination of A and B. So that is my section, and then I'll hand it back to Swan.
So our next steps are going to be the request for qualifications. That'll be coming before you. And as we piece this together, we'll be coming back to council for different pieces of it to be approved. If anybody has feedback or direction, we'd be happy to take it. One other thing, we've had other jurisdictions that are really excited that we're doing this and want to do it in their own jurisdictions. And so I think that this will be like a template that other places can use throughout the state to do this as well. A lot like Arcata has these same pots of money. They're interested in doing this. And so the more we talk about this, I think this will be something that we can really help put out there and help other jurisdictions as well with housing.
Thank you. Are there any? Councilmember Castellano?
Thank you. Thank you so much. I know this is a city manager report, so this is a luxury to make comment on it. But I'm sure you know, I'm very excited about this. I just wanted to give a little overview for any members of the public that are tuning in who may not be aware. This was one of our strategies during the City Council's strategic visioning, partially because both at the state level and the local level, accessory dwelling units have been identified as one of the capacities through which we can grow our housing stock. That's, it's an accessible way of kind of infill development that almost anyone can do in their yard. And so I just want to thank. But one of the big obstacles has been funding those ADUs. And so I really appreciate that you've been putting a lot of work into kind of solving this riddle, and that I'm really proud that the city's willing to step up and provide that kind of, and is looking at how to provide that initial layer of funding, because a lot of times banks won't loan on these accessory dwelling units, and so that becomes this obstacle to actually implementing the idea and getting more opportunities for housing in our community. So thank you. I'm very excited about it.
Thank you. Councilmember Moulton?
I had a question. You mentioned identifying a tenant as one of the steps in the process there. Is it required that they identify a tenant and that you have to have a income as part of it, or would it be possible for someone to build an ADU and pay it off themselves?
No, that's a great question. So in some cases, if they're relying on rental income to pay the mortgage, they will have to identify a tenant. But if they just want to build an ADU and they're afraid
their
to
mom
go
in
through
there.
the process on their own,
Uh-huh.
they're more than welcome. In fact, we think one of the best strategies about this program is that that it's not easy to build something like an ADU. A kitchen remodel is stressful enough. Having to build from the ground up is not it takes a lot of guts. It takes a lot of time and knowledge. So we feel that as if you look at the departments within the city, we have planning and engineering and building. So we do have the skill set to help people not only find the right design, but make sure that the building is or the unit is built to code. Our engineers can help them with utilities. So we really do have the skill sets to really make sure that they're successful in building the unit. And also because we're going to use monies to pay the contractors or local monies, that we need to make sure that it's being done correctly so that we can ensure permanent financing at the end of this. But it is available to anyone that just wants to build an ADU.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Can I add to that? I think the tenant part is going to be dependent on what pot of money is used. So, like for instance, if it's subsidized with a specific pot of money that requires you rent to a low-income family for 10 years and it's a deed restriction, then we're going to need to monitor that, and that's when we'll be involved in the tenant part. But there's going to also be market rate. Like we've met with a local lender that we think we can partner with, where after the construction happens, the loan will then be rolled over to them, will be repaid, and we'll be able to start over again. So it's going to depend a lot on the pot of money that's used for that specific project.
Okay, thank you. It sounds like a variety of uses for ADUs are going to be supported by this. That's what I want to make sure.
Councilmember Fernandez.
Well, speaking of the varieties, we have public funds that we're going to be using to help build these ADUs to house people. And so I guess I want to clarify that we do have restrictions set so that way these aren't converted, or at least that they won't be initially used for short-term rentals, Airbnbs, those type of things. So can you tell me a bit more about that?
So any use of the subsidies will require a contract, just like some agreement you would have with any mortgage lender. We do have experience in this regard because we've run first-time homebuyer programs. We run rehab loans. So all of those are not just given out, without the protection of that agreement and the ability to, address a default, or, if someone's not following the rules, we do have options to address that situation. But in no way are we encouraging these units to be used as vacation rentals.
And then
just to add to that, I'm pretty sure, and Kristen's not here, but I'm pretty sure that ADUs are not allowed to be used as VRBOs.
That's correct. The state law has intervened there, so new ADUs are not going to be used as Airbnbs, at least not legally.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I do have to ask, just because I'm not sure if it's been discussed in the past, but rental limit amounts, because again, if we're using public funds, we're asking someone to come in as a low-income renter, then what's to keep the deed holder or the mortgage holder there from saying, well, it's going to be $2,200 or any other amount for that matter? Do you understand the question I'm trying to ask here to the best of my ability?
Yes. Yeah, so
okay.
There's a monitoring process. So they do have to provide us with receipts essentially showing who the renter is and income, how they qualified for that rental unit. So there is, in certain cases, they will have to provide, or there will be an annual check-in to verify that they are abiding by the rules of that specific program.
Councilmember Bauer.
This is exciting because it achieves one of our bugs, our big unifying goals from strategic visioning. So I had to bring that up. No, great job. All I can say is that I hope this is successful and we can expand it to something greater, because this is exactly, I think, the kind of thing that can help advance our, our housing needs we seem to be kind of, interest rates being high. There's a lot of stumbling blocks for people that I know, wanting to do this, and this is it right here. So good job. I look forward to seeing it happen. Thank you.
Super exciting. Thanks so much. Okay, with that, we will reopen public comment. And I believe we have someone from the audience. You've been so amazing, so patient. Thank you so much. Come on up. Yeah.
Thank you for allowing us this platform to talk about the resolution that was, I guess, not picked up by you guys. I thought what I'd do is I will talk about some authors. I know this is a very loaded, charged subject matter. I know I have a lot of friends who are Jewish, and this has been a very painful reckoning. Finding out what the real story about the relationship with Israel and Palestinians is, it's available, and there's scholars that have devoted their entire lives to writing about it. They've done extremely extensive research. They're Jewish. One of them is Norman Finkelstein, and I would urge anybody, I would challenge you, if you want to find out more about what's been happening there, Norman Finkelstein has devoted his entire adult career to researching and writing books about the conflict. And his probably his most informative book about this subject is Gaza, An Inquest into Martyrdom. There's another man who's a Jewish man and an Israeli man. His name is Alon Pape. He's written several books, and he has talks on YouTube, as does Norman Finkelstein. There's a Palestinian man named Rashid Kahilidi. I'm not very good with those names. There's another gentleman who has a book out called The General's Son, and he's an Israeli man. He's an ex-officer. I don't know what his official title was, but his dad was actually around in 1948 for the forming of the State of Israel. And he's written a book called The General's Son, and his name is Miko Peled. I know that you guys said that this is a divisive thing, but I really would beg to differ. I think that to stand by and not do even a symbolic gesture that says we care about people that are being slaughtered as we speak. This is a genocide playing out in real time. Does that, 30 seconds
Still
left?
have some time.
I think by not doing anything, you send a message that you don't care about people. And I think that is very divisive. And I think the Arab world is watching. We have a lot of Palestinians that live in the United States and all over the world. And this is a war crime. This is a war crime, but Israel gets away with those war crimes. And part of the way they do it is they have a lot of money, and they're very much embedded in our government via AIPAC. AIPAC owns most of the votes in government.
Thank you. Your 3 minutes are up. I appreciate you being here.
Our rallies are on Friday. If you care to join us, we're here at the courthouse in Eureka on Fridays.
Are up. Thank you. You betcha. Is there anyone else from the audience who is here to public comment? Come on up. We've got two, so if you want to. Ladies first. What a gentleman. Thank you.
My name's Eileen Barch.
Welcome.
I live in the county. However, I drive the city streets. And my concern is those idiotical sidewalk extensions for handicaps, especially on corners where a car cannot make that particular turn, like at 7th and H when I just turned in. One is coming on the northwest corner, and you cannot make a left-hand turn onto H Street from that corner, nor can you make a right-hand turn from H Street onto 7th Street at that corner. So I do not understand the decision on some of the intersections to put an extension for, I guess, for whatever the reasons are, when there's not, a turn cannot be made by a vehicle on those particular streets, corners, and that's my concern. I think it's a waste of monies, wherever that is, and I understand the ones on 101 are probably Caltrans decisions, but the ones within the city of Eureka, I would think had to be approved somewhere here in Public Works. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for waiting. I know it's been a long evening. Hello and welcome.
Hello, good evening. Thank you for your time, Mayor and Council. This question addressed to last group were here. What is the difference between this course of construction loan and this loan before go to permanent loan? What's the difference?
I didn't.
After this, okay. That's what I'm curious about. Yes. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I couldn't hear either. It was about the ADU financing. He'll be talking to Director Millar. Thank you. Okay, anyone else from in chambers care to speak? Seeing none, we're going to carry over to Zoom, and we're going to begin with Michelle.
Good evening. This is Michelle Constantine, co-sponsor of the Housing for All in Downtown Vitality ballot initiative. I'm asking you, Mayor and Council, to call a special meeting before December 7th regarding the Housing for All initiative being placed on the March ballot. It is your duty as elected representatives to notify and be transparent with voters. When City Attorney Luna misadvised the Council on November 7th, 2023, regarding its power to place the initiative on the March 2024 ballot, as follows, Councilmember Moulton said, quote, "Could we, City Attorney Luna, could we move this to the March ballot if we wanted to right now? Could we make that happen?" City Attorney Luna, quote, "No, I do not believe that's an option that's available to our City Council." That was untrue and was never made clear to the public. The City Attorney acknowledged her error in saying the initiative could not be on the March ballot, but the City Council has not let the public know her advice at the November 7th meeting was wrong. It is undemocratic to not vote on it again and with accurate information. It is the Council's duty and obligation to hold another public hearing on this issue. The Council owes the voters and the citizens of the City of Eureka a duty to reconsider this question in light of the information that the Council does in fact have authority to place the initiative on the March 5th, 2024 ballot. The idea that there is no point to reconsider whether to place the initiative on the March 5th, 2024 ballot because the City Council will just vote again to place it on the November 2024 ballot is debatable. The City Council must provide the proponents of the initiative and city voters due process by considering whether to place the initiative on the March 5th, 2024 ballot, the November 2024 ballot, or another special election ballot consistent with the correct applicable legal requirements. Councilmember Moulton has recently publicly said that she won't even consider it no matter the cost because she doesn't agree with the initiative. This is the most undemocratic thing I have ever heard a council member say. This is why it should be up to the voters and not have our city council, and up to our voters and not our city council. The council members are ignoring more than 2,000 Eureka voters who want to preserve our downtown parking lots and provide housing on more viable properties. By refusing to call a new vote, you are taking this decision away from the voters. Regardless of council's personal opinion, you are elected to represent your constituents, not yourselves. The voters of Eureka deserve better. A special election will cost approximately $5,500, not the $30,000 Councilmember Moulton stated online. Lastly, I just want to say the erroneous statements about the initiative by several city council members are so egregious, they would be funny if they were not so serious. These statements are not only incorrect, but seem to be—
Thank you, Michelle. Thanks for being here. Your time is up. Jessica.
Hello?
Hi, welcome.
Hi, thank you. I'm commenting in regard to the Housing for All ballot initiative and some misinformation surrounding the initiative. First, during the City Council meeting on November 7th, the City Attorney was asked by Councilperson Moulton if it was an option for the Council to move the ballot initiative to the March 5th ballot. Attorney Luna replied that no, I don't believe that's an option for our City Council. The statement from the city attorney has proven to be incorrect. Our council does have the ability to bring this initiative to a vote on March 5th, provided that it's requested 88 days prior to March 5th. For the sake of clarity, a public statement of correction by our city attorney would be truly appreciated. Additionally, a council member claimed that there were not enough signatures garnered to move this ballot up to the March election. This is also incorrect. Election Code sections 9215 and 1405 state that 10% of registered voters are required to qualify a ballot measure for either a general election or a special election. The petition has not only has enough signatures, but it exceeded the amount that it needed. Furthermore, the same council person claimed that the cost for a special election is around $30,000. I spoke with Juan Cervantes, the registrar, today, and he explained that the cost of a special election cannot yet be determined due to the many variables. He did state that the $30,000, though, would be pretty unlikely. That said, even the unlikely $30K would not be an exorbitant amount when considering the millions of dollars in projects that are being put on pause till a vote happens. This initiative is backed by over 50 businesses in our city. Of these 50 businesses, many of us have multiple owners. These people have families. They have numerous employees. Many of these employees have families. These community members are the backbone of our city, and we're working, tax-paying community members. And our council is supposed to represent these people. Instead, we have a council member publicly calling their constituents' concerns baloney and calling them frauds and manipulative liars, along with other choice adjectives online. And then the public comment tonight by a planning commissioner. He specifically said that the planning commission made it clear that it was part of the plan all along to have affordable housing units built on parking garages. And if that hadn't been the proposal, it would not have been approved by the planning commission. I didn't realize that, and that's huge. Is our council ignoring our planning commission? And when you have a ballot initiative brought to you that's in alignment with what the planning commission felt is appropriate, you still feel like you can call it baloney. I just don't get what's going on here. Please call a special meeting of the city council for this and vote on this matter. Please call a special meeting of the city council for this on Thursday and vote on this matter by calling a special election on March 5th. It can still happen if done by Thursday. And maybe if it goes to a vote, the majority of our community will not be for this initiative, and that's fine. Individual opinions.
Thank you, Jessica. Your 3 minutes are up. I appreciate you being here. Lyndon.
Am I unmuted?
Yes.
Hi, this is Lyndon Tyler.
Welcome.
Glavish, the Linden and Company Salon and Spa. I am here also about the ballot initiative for the housing. I want to urge the city council. I've spoken to a few of you this past week. I enjoyed my talk with you, but there has been some inconsistencies in hearing tonight, even like Jessica just said, with the planning commission having a different stand than what is actually happening now. I want to urge to call a special meeting on the council, which you do all the time, and vote on this crucial matter of calling a special election on March 5th to resolve the issue of the parking lots. You just have to all hold a meeting by Thursday to meet the deadline for calling a special election. It appears that members of the council have not been reading the material provided to them. The city's own report on the housing initiative, the proponents' report, or letters from the city attorney to them. The city attorney sent you a letter saying that she had provided incorrect information and you could vote to have the initiative on the March ballot. Also, the council members have given misinformation that the cost of the special election is $30,000, when in reality it is only approximately $5,500, which is a huge difference to the community. And the city would pay whether the election is in March or November. So that $5,000 is not even negotiable. But it's very clear that the council has an agenda to push that doesn't match the 50 businesses that are represented, the hundreds of businesses in town that still don't agree with this, that are just not being represented by the initiative. There are other key items. The initiative makes no change to the city's overall RHNA allocations and makes no change to the city's ability to construct 330 affordable housing units on the city's own property. The initiative is simple. It allows the city to redevelop city-owned downtown parking lots as planned, but requires the development to preserve the existing parking lots on those space lots. The initiative does not interfere with the city's ability to meet its RHNA obligations, which is what the council members that actually called me back were discussing. The initiative will have a positive economic impact on the city's business, retailers, restaurants, professional services, and cultural and tourist destinations by preserving safe, accessible downtown parking. Eliminating these parking lots will mean that customers, patrons, and clients will be relocated to finding on-street parking that is not there and parking at a distant off-street lot, which is unsafe. Both are problematic. On-street parking is not available in volumes during typical business hours, and remote parking creates a safety risk, particularly after dark. The feeling I got from talking to some of the council members is that this is already happening regardless of what we say, and it just seems very tone deaf. It's almost as tone deaf as the November 21st letter that was sent out to businesses asking for donations.
Thank you, Lyndon. Thank you, Lyndon. Your time's up.
Thank you.
Sarai?
Hey again.
Hi.
Yeah, I just first want to mention and first want to state like how infuriating it is to like and not to say that I don't care about Alice Burney or parking or like ADUs, which, you know, these big unifying goals and these like templates that we're talking about that already have systemic inequalities built into them. Not seeing measures being put in place to mitigate what we know are inequitable renting practices in Humboldt County. Home ownership for folks is at a disparity, and we know that by traditionally redlined areas in Eureka and other places. You have to be a homeowner. How come the people who can already afford this, how come they can't subsidize the housing? As opposed to people who are already like having a hard time, who've like managed to own a home and now who want to do this. And yeah, so boo to that. But going on, I just want to mention how infuriating it is to have to deal with those things and also speak to a genocide that's occurring. And so as I'm inviting like my ancestors into this room, like I'm inviting the spirits of all the folks who have been harmed and murdered or martyred by folks daring to claim that they have the safety and best interests of folks at heart. I'm saying the name of Josiah Lawson and sending love to his mother and his loved ones as we still, after 6 years, are fighting for justice for him and accountability for his killer and folks covering up this crime. Eureka's land acknowledgement, in addition to being an insulting joke, like that talks about wanting to dismantle settler colonialism, like there's all areas in Eureka that have also pledged commitment to racial equity. The city of Eureka's diversity, equity, and inclusion, who y'all had to hire experts to come from outside the area. Y'all had to leave links to what DEI means, and those links were from Wikipedia. Like North Coast Regional Water Boards are confirming equity commitments. Like Eureka City Schools is saying it's embracing equity and diversity as a strength. Like all of these like performances, like they're falling incredibly short. They're falling incredibly, like y'all aren't even performing at this point. The city of Eureka continues with their whole chest to go to meetings and conduct reports and write things on your official websites. But when it comes to times like urgency and people saying what means things to them, y'all are coming with the same reasoning that bans vital books and ethnic studies programs, and it holds the same inequity as like status quo, as business as usual. The same white fragility and the nonsense that comes from seemingly liberal folks are also these business owners and also these people in community who are making us feel unsafe. The depthful disregard of our feelings and our suffering is just, again, infuriating. It's infuriating coming from folks who are claiming over and over and over again to care about racial equity. So I'm wondering, like, what is it that y'all are willing to say? Like, what is it that we're willing to protect? What part of equities are y'all like actually willing to stand on? Because y'all are stuck in a fantasy.
Thank you, Sarai. Your 3 minutes are up. Let's see. We have Free Palestine. Is that, pardon me?
Jasmine.
Jasmine.
Hi, my name is Jasmine. As a Jewish member of your community, I am extraordinarily disappointed that you have let your fear silence you. You've allowed it to make you complacent in the face of violence, but I'm not surprised at all by your actions. Chabad International states that the Jewish position, according to Maimonides, is that the birth of a child is the creation of an entire world. Each child is endlessly valuable and infinitely necessary. How are we supposed to take these words? We have to put equal value on human lives, not just abroad, but here in our community. What are your Palestinian, Islamic, Black, or brown constituents supposed to think of your dismissive behavior? What are any oppressed people in your community supposed to think of you when you are sitting here perpetuating oppression? In April of 2015, H.R. 2590, the Defending the Human Rights of Palestinian Children and Families Living Under Israeli Military Occupation Act was introduced by Representative Betty McCollum. It seeks to ensure that no U.S. taxpayer funds are used by the Israeli government for the military detention of Palestinian children, the demolition of Palestinian homes and property, or to further annex Palestinian lands in violation of international law. Israel receives an unconditional $3.8 billion in aid from the United States annually. The Israeli military detains around 500 to 700 Palestinian children every year. Israeli forces arrest children from their homes in the middle of the night, at demonstrations, near military installations like checkpoints. Approximately 3 out of 4 children experience physical violence and typically arrive at their interrogations bound, blindfolded, frightened, sleep-deprived, and without the presence of a parent or a guardian or a lawyer. These children are prosecuted in military courts that deny fundamental due process rights and violate international standards for independence and impartiality. This systematic and institutional violence is well documented by the U.S. State Department, Human Rights Watch, UNICEF, and many others. Palestinian children have the right to a safe and a just future. The United States government must use all available means to pressure Israeli authorities to end the detention and abuse of Palestinian children. Part of our government is you, sitting on that council right now, and you are not listening. You are perpetuating this right now by being unwilling to act. The liberation of one group cannot come at the expense of another. If it does, it is not liberation. Some people seem to not understand this. The liberation of one group cannot come at the expense of another. If it does, it is not liberation. Jewish liberation, my people's liberation, will never happen without Palestinian liberation. Free Palestine.
Thank you, Jessica. Jasmine, I'm sorry. Ellen P.
Hello.
Hello, welcome.
Thank you. I am a resident of Eureka, and I'm also chronically ill, so I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you via Zoom as it's much more accessible for me. I am here to speak about the importance of our city embracing the cause for the liberation of Palestine. I am truly confused by the mayor's statement yesterday that said if the city council took up discussion of the violence in Palestine, it would cause divisiveness and hatred in our community. How would speaking up for peace be a divisive topic? I have been accused of this myself when I've called for an end to the atrocities inflicted by Israel on the Palestinians it keeps under its occupation, yet I cannot wrap my mind around how demanding an end to bombing civilians is sowing hatred. I seek from you tonight an understanding that the community you serve is asking for you to be brave. I am no stranger to the outsized aggression that comes from Zionists when I center Palestinian lives, although it does continue to befuddle me. But I think you all know as well as I do that at this moment, the issue is not complex and it is not confusing. Israel rains bombs down on civilians and we see the carnage streamed into the palms of our hands. This has to stop, and you need to stand with your community and say so. You need to speak to your community and tell us that you have not fallen for the propaganda perpetrated by our higher elected officials who have a vested interest in maintaining a foothold in the Middle East via the settler state of Israel, that you see the world clearly in all its beauty and flaws, and that you will help us make it better. Whether it's our unhoused neighbors or disabled or chronically ill folks like me, or our Palestinian residents who are losing family members every day, please show us that you stand for compassion, for solidarity, because so many members of our community see themselves in the Palestinian struggle, and they know that if you cannot speak plainly when genocide is on full display, then they don't stand a chance in our city, because we know from lived experience and from history that there is no one more dangerous than the one who stays silent in the presence of evil and injustice. As a parent, I have been gutted by the endless images of dead, dying, injured, trapped, and orphaned children in Gaza. As a parent, how can I know my child is safe in this community if my elected leaders won't speak out against the suffering of thousands of children that all of us can see? Scholars around the world and international institutions have already called this for what it is: genocide, apartheid, ethnic cleansing, collective punishment. Please stand on the side of the people, not the powerful. Show us that Eureka is a different kind of place, where we can all speak the truth and support one another. Call for the liberation of Palestine from colonial imperialist forces that have none of our best interests in mind. Tell us that you will fight with us for a more just and equitable world based on truth, not lies. Tell us that you will be brave. Thank you. Free Palestine.
Thank you, Ellen. Looks like Naomi.
Unmute. There we are. There we are. Good evening.
Good
My name
evening.
is Naomi Steinberg. I'm a 40-year resident of Humboldt, and for the last 25 years or more, I've been a rabbi serving Temple Bethel in Eureka and B'nai Haaretz in Redway, Children of the Earth. And I'm here tonight to express my gratitude. I want to thank the mayor for her deeply thoughtful statement about the proposed ceasefire resolution. I also thank the council members for the wise decision to remove the item from the agenda. And I thank Police Chief Jarvis for his hard work and sincere dedication to keeping our community safe. I'm sorry to hear of his retirement. Sadly, we must acknowledge that many of us living here in Humboldt County are especially vulnerable to violent attacks due to the color of our skin, our ethnic heritage, or the way we do or don't worship. Anyone wearing a hijab, a keffiyeh, or a yarmulke, or any cultural or religious items can become a target. These risks are terribly, terribly real. At this very difficult moment in world history, we must do everything we can to promote community cohesion, understanding, and compassion. I invite everyone to a special interfaith event honoring the 75th anniversary of the signing of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights this Sunday, which is also the fourth day of Hanukkah. It's co-sponsored by Temple Bethel and the United Christian Congregational Church. Garden of the Heart Sufi community will lead dances of universal peace. Everyone's welcome. 3 to 6 at the UCC Church on Hodgson Street. There will be robust security. I echo the beautiful sentiments expressed by the mayor when she wrote, "May we practice peace and respectful dialogue in all our interactions each and every day." Thank you all, council members and mayor, for your very hard work and your dedication to our community. We're blessed to have this wonderful local exercise in democracy. Thanks so much. Good night.
Thank you, Naomi. Bree.
Good evening, Eureka City Council members and Mayor Burgle. My name
Good
is
evening.
Brianne Hutchinson. I'm a local mental health therapist here in Humboldt. I work with youth and adults providing trauma-informed care for a number of mental health disorders. I'm here to comment on my disappointment that you've removed the ceasefire and liberation of Palestine resolution from tonight's agenda, and I'm asking why. How does silence or avoidance ever bring peace? While I feel the language of this resolution needs further review and the earnestness for an end to the violent military settler colonial politics, an end to the siege on Gaza by Israel, which is backed by the U.S., should be more explicit and direct in the resolution. Overall, I'm in favor of the resolution or one like it passing and being discussed further amongst our community members and City Council. Please think critically about your roles as civil leaders, because fascism and imperialism silences opposition to oppression. 61% of the U.S. voters demand a ceasefire. We are not being heard by our government. This war is about oil and gas, let's be clear. My judgment is that the U.S. government is using historic traumas of the Jewish and Arab communities to perpetuate neoliberal settler colonial agendas, and I do not support my tax dollars funding these bombs. My husband is a doctor working emergency pediatrics this month in Sacramento. He has been away from me and his 3-year-old child, working night shifts, helping to save the lives of other children. Not once have I thought his hospital would be bombed or that our lives would be threatened because he is saving lives and providing essential care. What is happening in Gaza, bombing hospitals and medical ambulances, violates international war crimes. This is not self-defense, this is genocide. You decided to pull it from the agenda because you thought it would create more disagreement and division amongst community members, but I disagree. I believe not talking, not connecting. I believe silence and avoidance, not trying to understand and make a truce, is what perpetuates division and violence. I believe as a global and local community, the conflict in Gaza is revealing to us how deadly and horrific white supremacy and settler colonizer behaviors and agendas are. Did you notice that when the public started talking about the genocide in Gaza, they also began talking about the other silent genocides occurring in Congo and Hawaii, in our own Native American communities in Sudan, with the Sami people in Scandinavia? We are all interconnected. In my experience as a mental health clinician, I've studied and treated a number of clinical expressions of mental health disorders. What is not in the DSM, the Diagnostic Statistical Manual, but should be, is white supremacy personality disorder, is settler colonizer behavioral syndrome. I genuinely believe the expression of white supremacy, racism, and settler colonizer behaviors and mentalities is a mental illness that threatens our well-being as a collective society. I strongly ask you all to ask yourselves, why are you silencing voices right now? Whose narrative are you promoting and uplifting by doing this? And how does silence and avoidance bridge peace? We are being asked to think compassionately and critically towards an issue that threatens local and international human rights, liberation, and peace using our tax dollars. Please, peace is a human right. Silencing conversations about genocide, really? This is avoidance. This is ignorance. This is imperialist colonizer behavior. Please do better, and please add.
Thank you, Bree. Your 3 minutes are up. But thank you for sharing. Amy.
My name is Amy. I'm a Eureka resident, resident of Councilmember Fernandez District and alumni of Cal Poly Humboldt. I am with my community members in calling to support the resolution by Humboldt for Palestine, the resolution for the liberation of Palestine that calls for a free and liberated Palestine. I ask Eureka council members to stand behind your condemnations of U.S. settler colonialism and genocide, and stand behind your performative land acknowledgements by standing against Israel's genocide and apartheid against the Palestinian people, which has been going on for over 75 years with the full support and backing of the U.S. government. I reject the notion that this is not a local issue, as collective justice and collective peace are interconnected and affect each of us every single day, no matter where we live. I completely and wholeheartedly support this resolution. I echo support in demanding a permanent ceasefire to stop this current iteration of Israel's genocide of the Palestinian people, and to remind you all that violence does not exist in a vacuum. Again, I wanted to just highlight one of the many manifestations of this violence enacted by the Israeli state through the occupation forces, also known as the IDF. I want to encourage folks here to research the Project of Deadly Exchange to fully understand how the U.S. and Israel partner in this carceral violence that manifests across our local communities, including here in Humboldt, as police racism and violence is alive and well in this community. Both the U.S. and Israeli governments perpetuate the deadly falsehood that violence against some communities will create security for others. This deadly exchange brings together local police, border patrol, FBI, and from the U.S. with soldiers and police from Israel. In these programs, quote, worst practices are shared to promote and extend discriminatory and repressive policing practices that already exist in both countries, including racial profiling, massive spying and surveillance, deportation and detention, and attacks on human rights defenders. Thousands of the highest-ranking police officials and law enforcement executives across the country have participated in these exchange programs, which are primarily billed as opportunities for U.S. law enforcement to learn carceral and violent tactics from the Israeli military and police. These violent strategies and methods are then utilized by police across the U.S., including right here in Eureka. But Mayor, I'm sure your quote, fun right along with the cops didn't show you this violence. I wanted to bring this up to highlight the connected inherent settler colonial violence that exists between the Israel and the U.S. and the necessity of a collective safety and a collective justice, as I keep hearing people refer to the quote, need for peace, and to quote, stay out of the politics of other places, and to quote, maintain respectful dialogue and decorum. But I am fully aware that the people and council members here co-opting this language and only making vague calls for peace really mean they'd rather us remain ignorant and apathetic to the genocide and ethnic cleansing we are witnessing every single day. Peace and justice will occur when Palestine is free. Blood is on the hands of every politician, local politicians included, or others who have spread the lies and propaganda put forth by the Zionist apartheid government, manufacturing consent for this genocide. I am with my community in condemning the ongoing and continuous ethnic cleansing of Palestinians in Gaza, the West Bank, and all of Palestine, and naming collective punishment as an explicit war crime, as well as condemning the slaughtering of over 20,000 people, including over 6,000 children.
Thank you, Amy. We appreciate your comments. Tamar?
Can I be heard?
Yes, welcome.
Hi, honor city council members. My name is Tamar, and I'm Israeli American that has been living in Humboldt County for the last 17 years. I call on all the moderating voices that seek peace and healing in this community and allow different voices on the matter of the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. to come together. I believe that we have the duty to call for hope in this community here. We cannot solve the complex conflict thousands of miles away, but we shouldn't be afraid or hesitate to seek in a creative way to dialogue in this community. A resolution is not the way to heal, nor to solve these conflicts, but we, the people, are the vehicle power to heal the wounds here in Humboldt. Thank you.
Thank you, Tamara. Gigi?
Hello.
Hi, welcome.
Thank you, council members, mayor. I am impressed today by your cowardice and by your insistence on standing upon the wrong side of history. I'm impressed that you would allow the influence and pressure of some hate-spewing community members to stop a discussion around a simple act of peace and solidarity with humankind from your agenda. I'm here in support of the resolution repeatedly presented and ignored by you as written by Humboldt for Palestine. I'd like to read you a quote. There are people and cultures who harbor very different attitudes about violence and the value of human life. There are people and cultures that rejoice, positively rejoice, dancing in the streets, rejoicing over the massacre of innocent civilians. Conversely, there are people and cultures that avoid killing innocent civilians. There are people and cultures who revel in the language of hostages and prisoners of war, who will parade them before cheering mobs and often allow them to be assaulted or raped or even murdered. They will desecrate their bodies in public, and all of this carnage is a cause for jubilation. Inversely, there are people and cultures who find such barbarism revolting. This is just an excerpt of the overt dehumanizing hate speech of local racist extremist Rabbi Cohen of Arcata that we were all forced to sit and politely listen to during the November 15th City Council meeting. This is the voice you are choosing to protect, a voice who claims to fear a rise of hate towards his own people, but clearly is actively inciting hate and violence towards others. Words of this nature, stated by Rabbi Cohen and protected by the Arcata and now Eureka City Council, who have been in close communication with the rabbi, ring out as echoes of the Nazi propaganda used against Jews during the Holocaust. This is the voice you're choosing to represent, one comfortable making dehumanizing claims against entire religions and ethnic groups. It's disgusting, it's shameful, and it is these actions by local government that make our community unsafe. They send a clear message to Black and brown bodies, in particular Palestinians and Muslims in our community, and those often mistaken for either due to American cultural ignorance, that are at risk due to your actions. By choosing the side of violence, it is you who is dividing the community. By choosing the side of the oppressor, it is you who is upholding Israel's ability to continue the genocide of Palestinians. And by remaining silent, it is you who gives carte blanche to racist extremists to make attacks, large and small, in our own community towards bodies you have clearly deemed as less important or less deserving of protection or representation. Shame on you, City of Eureka. Shame on you, Humboldt County. Shame on you. Shame on you. Shame on you.
Thank you, Gigi. Your 3 minutes are up. We appreciate you being here. Is it Avril?
Yes, thank you.
Hi, welcome.
First, I would like to address the nomination for police chief. While it is useful to know that they play golf, I am far more interested in knowing how they feel about police transparency, police misconduct complaints, how they intend on handling excessive force complaints, discrimination complaints, racial disparities in arrests, and things like that. Second, I would like to agree with the majority of people who have spoken in backing the need for the city council to speak for a ceasefire in Palestine and speak out against the genocide. Thank you.
Thank you, Avril. Is it Emily? Welcome, Emily.
Emily, you're
There you go. We can hear you now.
I believe that humans are good, even though we don't always act that way. The Palestinian people are good. The Israeli people are good. The people writing and speaking to the Eureka City Council are good. When war is happening and people are dying, humans are upset, angry, scared, and we are not able to think well. We also get pulled to pick sides, and then we defend our side, even if it ends up with defending actions that in other situations we would not defend. I know that even other Jews like me, including those I am close to, don't all agree with me. But blaming and shaming never helps us to think better or figure out the best actions. True. Many of us also get pushed to want to do something right away. But what we need to do is take the time to listen and be listened to without defensiveness, not only to people who agree with us, but also those who don't. We will get smarter and be able to think better if we put energy into listening to each other. A resolution by the City Council is for the entire population of Eureka, and everybody needs to be included in creating it. That would take a lot of time and a lot of listening, but that is what we need right now. We need to take the time to listen to each other in order to figure out new ways of thinking and truly creative responses, and not let the horror and heartbreak of what is going on keep us divided. Division is a key part of how racism, Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, and any other ism functions, pushing us to be divided. Rather than adopt a resolution, I ask you to instead support ways we can listen to each other and figure out ways to work together, with everyone participating on this challenging issue, and to work together to prevent Islamophobia and anti-Semitism and racism in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Oren.
Hello, folks. Can you hear me?
We can. Welcome.
All right. Well, first of all, I want to say that I am very upset at all these ad hominem attacks tonight at people. I believe that we've forgotten the way to speak to each other respectfully, it seems like. Mm-hmm. And I'm sad because we forget to look at the human being and we just speak with our anger and let our angers drive nails into our heart. And to those who have angers in their hearts, I understand, I hold empathy, but attacking another person, attacking my rabbi is unacceptable. You've lost your moral compass, and I will pray for you to find it because it is gone. My plea is not a presentation of words, it's a call from the soul, a call that goes beyond any ideology. This discord, this hate, this political narrative that has infected our society. I want people to live in peace. I'm tired of this conflict. I'm tired of being Jewish and having to explain my stance all the time. I'm tired of this. I want it to end. I just want it to end. This is not a game to me. I will stand by my shtetl, my community, stand by my people. Stand by my community and coexistence and pluralism for anyone. Can you go on here and talk with so much hate? Can you go on here and attack the mayor and the city council? How can you do that? How do you expect them to listen to you when you don't respect them? Sorry. Why? This is why your message is not being spread. It's because you have all this hate and you're not willing to put it aside. I'm willing to speak with anyone to craft a resolution for peace. I believe that's what we all want. We want it a different way. We're on different ends of the spectrum here. I'm tired of this. Why are we speaking in the language of dividers? Speaking in the language of radicals? Parents raised you better? Father came here as an immigrant because he believed in pluralism. Peace. I believe that everyone should say what they need to say, but everyone should live together in coexistence. You cannot other the Jewish community and say that we are white. His father's family is from Yemen. Kicked out because they were Yahud. You know what that means? Why are we doing this? And talk to us when you want to bury the sword and take up the
Thank you,
olive leaf.
Warren. We appreciate your comments. Your 3 minutes are up. Jacob.
City Council.
Hi, welcome.
My name is Jacob, and I am a biology graduate student at Cal Poly Humboldt. I come here to demand a permanent ceasefire in Gaza, a condemnation of the Israeli apartheid state, and for you to support the total liberation of Palestine. I will speak on this as an early career plant microbe ecologist. For my credentials, I am a National Science Foundation Graduate Research Fellowship Program Fellow. I am a chair member of the Microbial Ecology chapter for the Ecological Society of America, and 3 weeks ago I received my first publication in the scientific journal Fungal Ecology. My paper was titled Climate Change and Plant Microbe Interactions: Water Availability Influences the Effective Specialization of a Fungal Pathogen. I only mention this because I was present at the hearing Congressman Huffman held on Zoom a couple of weeks ago, where he claimed to only listen to experts, quote unquote. My suspicion is he only questioned the expertise of the Humboldt for Palestine speakers because many of them were Black and Indigenous women of color. My suspicion is that you are exactly the same, Kim. So you have the opportunity to condemn a genocide. Act on it. This is not a complicated issue. It is only complicated for the slave master. So do it. If not out of your heart, then at least for your sanity that you stood on the right side of history. It'll be better on your skin. Thank you.
Thanks for being here, Jacob. We appreciate your comments. Is it Lilac? Lilac? Did I just ruin your name?
Yes, hello.
Hi, welcome.
Hi. I find it very interesting. First of all, I want to thank the council for removing the resolution. I think that was a wise and important decision for the community. I find it very interesting that anti-Israel speakers claim to denounce all violence, but they do not acknowledge and even justify horrifying crimes against humanity committed by Hamas as the acting government of Gaza. In the name of freedom, Israeli families, elderly parents, and children have been savagely slaughtered and burned alive in their pajamas. Young adults in a music festival tortured and violently raped. All were filmed, published, and then denied by Hamas. In the name of freedom, humanitarian aid money aimed to elevate Palestinian lives was spent on spreading hate, purchasing weapons and ammunition, and building war tunnels instead of infrastructure. None of these actions promoted liberations. In fact, it only enslaved us to the same cycle of hate we've been on for decades. I'm confused about anti-Israel speakers' comment about cheering in the street for genocide attributed to Israelis when there are videos of Gazans cheering for the atrocities I've mentioned, as well as the atrocities of September 11 terror attack. Members of Humboldt for Palestine are the ones who should be ashamed of themselves. It is mind-blowing to see crowds of otherwise level-headed individuals turn into hate-spewing, angry mob advocating against alleged genocide and ethnic cleansing of one nation by chanting to commit these acts on another nation. Chanters of the catchy yet very highly offensive slogan often cannot even name the river or the sea, and certainly do not grasp the severity of its implication. Hate is blind. Israel is not going anywhere, and these two nations will have to find a way to peacefully coexist. Any statement that does not prioritize peace is simply not helpful. You are not helping Palestinians by hating on Israel. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Oh, I'm going to butcher this one. Akib? Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
Oh,
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
Welcome.
so thank you. So it's important to recognize that the actions of Hamas cannot be equated with the aspirations of the entire Palestinian population. While Palestinians, like any other community, have diverse perspectives, it's crucial not to generalize the actions of a specific group to represent the entire people. On the other hand, allegations of war crimes must be addressed with the utmost seriousness, regardless of the complexities of the Israel-Palestine conflict. International law and human rights principles must be upheld, which Israel has failed to do. And I'd also like to talk about how opposing a ceasefire is basically an endorsement of dehumanization and implicit support for genocide. Embracing a ceasefire is an acknowledgement of our shared humanity, a recognition that every life holds inherent value. Choosing to perpetuate conflict without seeking a cessation undermines the very essence of empathy and compassion. It's imperative to understand that advocating against a ceasefire inadvertently aligns with the continuation of violence, allowing suffering to persist unchecked. To stand against a ceasefire is to, in essence, lend legitimacy to the tragedy of genocide, forsaking the principles that should unite us in safeguarding human dignity and peace. A ceasefire is an essential step towards opening avenues for dialogue, understanding, and ultimately a just resolution. Supporting a free Palestine isn't about taking sides, it's about standing up for human rights and the universal values of justice and dignity. So please wake up. I appreciate you guys. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Akib. Jose.
Hi, Mayor, City
Hi.
Council members. My name is Jose. I'm a student at Cal Poly Humboldt, and I'm a Navy veteran. And I am calling on behalf of my support for a ceasefire resolution because I don't understand what kind of world we're living in. We're calling for a ceasefire to protect lives is considered violence or hatred. That's Zionist rhetoric. Every accusation that Zionists point out towards people is really aimed at themselves. So when they say that we're being that we're speaking of hatred, they need to say that in the mirror, because every day I'm waking up to videos of children being killed, families, entire generations being wiped off the map, and for what? For oil and gas? This isn't some religious war that they try to make it out as. It's settler colonialism, it's imperialism, and you need to be aware of that. If not, we're all going to go down on this ship. So that's all I have to say. Free Palestine.
Thank you, Jose. Do you see anyone else, Shannon?
I see no one else.
Seeing no one else, we will close the public comment. I do want to thank everybody for speaking. We appreciate all your comments. And we will bring it back to council reports. Councilmember Castellano.
Okay. It's hard to have words. Just want to, echo Mayor Burgell's appreciation for the public comment tonight, and express the grief I feel. And in some ways I accept the anger I've heard and experienced tonight, as, in many ways, those of us on City Council are your closest symbols or expressions of the power that many of us feel lack of access to, in terms of being able to make real change in relationship to the injustices of the world and how they echo in our communities. I made a decision in relationship to my own space I occupy in proximity or lack of proximity to the global power systems, to focus on my own community here, because this is where I have the greatest access to change and to embodying the world I want to experience. And I want to respect that many people here who make comments tonight, whether in anger at me or us or one another, I consider people who, whether I've worked with you yet or will work with you in the future, to embody the community we want to see. Do I think we've figured that out? Clearly not, and I think that's what we're here to do, is to exercise the ways that we want to see the world. And it's a struggle, and it should be, because there's, we have great histories of injustices experienced by many people to reckon with, and we do so in ways that are immediate and personal and as learners, and I see myself here as a learner. So I just want to say that I took this position, and I take positions not to say that I figured it all out or I'm somehow above everyone, and I don't take decisions we make here lightly, and I don't take the not deciding of things lightly, and and I don't shy away from your anger, though. We feel it, and I appreciate that underneath anger is passion and care. And I also just want to lift up and honor those things. It hasn't been brought up tonight, but I have great concern for the environmental consequences of war. There's a lot of thinking and writing on those, and I do think that that's something that should be lifted up more. And with that being said, I welcome continued conversation. And I just want to recognize also, as someone who works 50, 60 hours a week, some weeks, that I have not always been present to the degree for those conversations that I would like. And so I recognize that, I think I can work harder, and we all can, to create spaces for those. In other news, I was out of town last week at the Cal Cities League Leaders Conference, where we were discussing our legislative priorities for the year for Cal Cities, which is the advocacy, the organization that works on behalf of all cities at the state level. And I'm really proud to say that it is I think the first time that Cal Cities has adopted climate change as one of its legislative priorities, which I think is very significant. And the other legislative priorities adopted were housing and homelessness, resources and funding for cities, and public safety, including preventative measures related to public safety. So it's always an honor to represent the city, and to represent all of you, and to be here as you express your differences.
Thank you. Councilmember Moulton.
I have no travel to report, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Fernandez.
Yeah, so going off of what was just said moments ago, my understanding, at least, for the pulling of the ceasefire resolution dealt with a lack or delay in our outreach to additional community groups. And as there's a lack of understanding and education, there is an inherent divisiveness, at least rife in this issue. Mm-hmm. I'm not an expert in any way on the relationships between, well, anywhere in the Middle East for that matter. And so I see this, and I agree that this is a local issue as it affects the safety of our community members, particularly those of Arab and Jewish descent, those that are Muslim. If I say simply liberate Palestine or never again, these actions alone are performative. I condemn the deplorable actions of Hamas and Benjamin Netanyahu, but going to what one of our speakers had said earlier, I welcome what is asked to hold space for dialogue, to bring our community together. And that's what I had intended with this original resolution.
Thank you. Councilmember Bauer.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll start with, I also was at Cal City's meeting where I represent I'm on the board of directors for the 482 cities in the state. And we had I'll say this to what Councilmember Castellano talked about, we're really focused on protecting local revenue because there's a big deficit looming, and it could mean challenges for our little city. And then, we fought hard to include climate change in our 4 priorities for 2024, our legislative priorities. And, homelessness was every year we're all dealing with it. And that's the one thing I feel like ties into what's transpired tonight. What I recognize at that meeting, when you talk to the 47 council members that are there, whether it's Alameda, Oakland, Woodlake, a little tiny town or a big town, we all have the exact same issues. And that's what those 4 priorities come about from. But it also comes about from, I actually had discussions about resolutions with other council members, and the consensus with them was, is this space here, city council chambers, the proper venue? And we had a really interesting discussion about that, and most of them, well, all of them didn't feel like it was. Like, our business is the workings of a city, dealing with homelessness, dealing with our antiquated sewer system, making our space livable, and helping people have the basic necessities, right? That's what the consensus was, and I believe that. And I struggle with hearing, individuals in this, of my colleagues being called out because it's not fair. Like I said, I don't believe this is the venue. I've called my congressman. I've called the president's phone. I've done everything I can at the federal level to try and see some change because I'm anti-war, flat out. I just feel like from the 100 and something emails I received, it is a divisive issue. And is this the forum for it? I don't think so. I think it's trying to make our city the best place, the safest place for our citizens. And I appreciate what everyone said on both sides. But we're challenged every day with just trying to run a city. We're practically volunteers, and the attacks are unfair. They really are to my colleagues and to all of us, that we're somehow uncaring. Nobody knows our backgrounds. They don't. I walked the streets of the 100,000 people in San Francisco to protest the Iraqi war. So I just want people to be civil and understand that we may differ on what we think is the appropriate space to be anti-war, but let's not attack others, and let's try and understand we're all human and we're doing the best we can and we're trying to figure it out, but I appreciate working with everybody up here. I always will, and I hope we can be more civil. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Bauer. That is an excellent way to end our meeting, and that is exactly what we're going to do. We're adjourned.